Chapter 1944. In the end, Kelowna's Shinryu didn't arrive at the gate of Xianyuan Palace on the coast of the East China Sea. This was somewhere in the hinterland of the Central Plains in ancient times. Longshuo sensed a familiar aura. It was Chichi Kamaya's aura in the mountains. In a small villa in the suburbs, Longshuo saw Gue Chini, the head of Koan department of Xianyuan Palace, and Ghost Baby walking out with crutches as soon as she landed in the courtyard. Not only these two fellows, there were at least 10 Koan tribe demon warriors standing guard around the villa. In addition, there was also a masked woman wearing the official robes of the Xianyuan Palace Wang family. She's the substitute Su Zijuan that Brat mentioned. Long Shuo looked at the masked woman who looked uneasy. "What's your name?" The masked woman didn't dare to speak directly. She looked at Chichi Kamaya and Ghost Child as if asking for help. The dirty old turtle said slowly, "This is Kelowna's Dragon Sama. She should already know about your situation. It's okay to tell her." Jessica. The masked woman had no choice but to introduce herself. Long Shuo frowned and glared at the masked woman. "Jessica," she said, "I'll put aside the matter between you and that brat. Chichi Kamaya, come with me. I have something to ask you." Kelowna's Shinryu walked into the villa. Ghost Child was about to speak when Chichi Kamaya shook his head. "Ghost Child, take Miss Jessica away. I'll deal with Lord Long. She won't make things difficult for me. You don't have to worry." Ghost Child said expressionlessly, "I'm not worried at all. Even if Shinryu Sama wants to hang you up and beat you, I won't be able to help. Even if you die, you'll die in vain. So I have nothing to worry about." "Deduct my salary? You've never given me a salary." The dirty old turtle almost fainted from anger. In the end, Ghost Child still brought Jessica to the side. After sorting out his thoughts, Chichi Kamaya walked into the hall of the villa. At this moment, Kelowna Shinryu took out a bottle of beer from the fridge and sat on the sofa. He seemed to be thinking about something. As soon as Chichi Kamaya came in, his face was already full of smiles. Miss Jessica has been staying in the Xianyuan Palace to replace the princess. Sooner or later, she will be exposed. Seeing that the Kelowna summit is about to begin, this old man simply brought her out and told the public that the Xianyuan Palace will also be attending this summit. I just happened to pass by this place, but I didn't expect Lord Long to come. As I said, I don't have time to care about this absurd matter for the time being. I have long had nothing to do with the Xianyuan Palace." Long Shou said indifferently, "I came here specifically to look for you. Lord Long is looking for this old man?" Chichi Kamaya was stunned. "May I know why? I remember you said that you saw Gong Sun Shiyu's death at the Spirit Chi Rift in Mount Tai, right?" "Yes, this old man did say that, and I saw it with my own eyes." Chichi Kamaya nodded, then frowned and said, "Is there something wrong with this matter? Today, someone activated Jojo Xuanyuan's sword energy." Shinryu Kelowna said directly, "This could it be the princess's doing?" Chichi Kamaya said subconsciously, "No. If it was the princess's doing, Lord Long must know. So, this has something to do with Gong Sun Shiyu?" "I suspect that he didn't die at all." Long Shirua nodded. "Other than me and Zijuan, Gong Sun Shiyu is the only one in Kelowna who can activate Jojo Xuanyuan's sword energy due to his talent. If he is truly dead, this sword energy shouldn't have appeared." Chichi Kamaya said in a low voice. "In fact, Gong Sun Shiyu is truly dead. His body was personally dug out by this old man and brought back to the Xianyuan Palace. This matter, Division Leader Qian also personally verified it. It is indeed Gong Sun Shiyu. Because of Gong Sun Shiyu, Division Leader Qian Kuan is currently imprisoned in the glacial pond." "Are you sure?" "It's not that this old man is sure, but the body was cremated and buried under the witness of 2 divisions of the Xianyuan Palace. It can't be wrong." "That's strange. I can't have sensed Jojo Xianyuan wrongly." Long Shirua frowned. "However, Yin Xiaoxi told me confidently that the person called himself Gong Sun Shiyu. Jojo Xianyuan did appear at that time. Although he didn't activate it, his aura was very strong. Yin Xiaoxi, that old man's last disciple, the one from the Kelowna administration?" Chichi Kamaya asked in a low voice. "Lord Long, Can you tell this old man what happened? I'm afraid you'll have to ask him personally when you arrive. Longshaw thought for a moment and said, I was out for other matters. I encountered this when I was out, but I didn't know the details. Forget it. Come with me to meet Yin Xiaoxi. That's the only way. Chi Kamaya nodded. In that case, this old man will go and get ready. The trip to the Xinyuan Palace was just for a short rest. They would definitely be able to make it on the first day of the summit, because there were demons in the Kuan tribe who were good at flying. Traveling thousands of miles in a day was a piece of cake for them. Seeing that Chi Kamaya was about to get ready, Kelowna Shinryu suddenly opened his mouth. Old Tortoise, wait, do you know how to interpret the lot? Interpret what? Chi Kamaya was stunned. Longshaw said angrily, Interpret the lot. The lot of the lot. Do you know how to interpret the lot? Chi Kamaya looked at Kelowna Shinryu suspiciously, but he quickly said, This old man knows a thing or two about the lot. Lord Long, why don't you tell me the content of the lot? Forget it, it's all right. Go and get ready. Kelowna Shinryu said indifferently, Hurry up. I have a feeling that something will happen during this summit. How could he have a nerve to say something like a second time? Moreover, he was asking about marriage. If he really said that, with this old tortoise's big mouth, wouldn't it become the biggest gossip in the whole Kelowna Transcendence world in less than 3 days? She took out the lot and sighed. Actually, she could interpret the lot herself, but she couldn't stop herself from thinking the wrong way. God knew why she would think the wrong way so easily. Kelowna Shinryu pursed his lips and said to himself, If this old woman really does it twice, can you stand it? Of course, the lot couldn't be interpreted in such a violent way. But it was the year 0202 now. Kelowna Shinryu put away the lot and took a short rest while Chi Kamaya was getting ready. She had a dream. In the dream, she was in the market of the Ghost Kingdom's Divine Palace. She wasn't Kelowna Shinryu, but just a rich girl who had a hard life. He wasn't the boss of that place, but a poor scholar who was preparing to go to the capital for the imperial examination but died of illness in a foreign place. She dropped a hairpin, and he picked it up from the crowd and put it on for her. It was like a poem or a painting, and everything seemed very beautiful. Then, all of a sudden, the poor scholar transformed into a male model wearing a black see-through suit and tight pants. He stood in front of the colorful neon lights and told her with a smile that it only cost 800 yuan for one time, 1,500 yuan for a night, 500 yuan for a whip, and another 1,000 yuan for a mouth without a problem. Roar! The rich girl immediately shouted, lifted her skirt, and rushed forward. She didn't expect that the surroundings would suddenly become white and hazy. The ghost market disappeared, and then a girl with long blonde hair rushed out with a 40-meter-long flagpole. The rich girl was no match for the blonde girl and was pressed to the ground. Then the blonde girl directly sat on the rich girl's body and constantly patted the rich girl's chest. She kept saying that she was a shameless, coquettish fox. What use would a lowly bee's fat have? However, at this critical moment, a golden light suddenly flashed in the sky, and the whole night sky was illuminated by the golden Buddha's light. A 9-colored lotus platform appeared in the sky. They saw a solemn-looking, big-breasted thing sitting on the 9-colored lotus platform. It was delivering salvation to the world, and the blonde girl was also driven away. So big, so big, so big, so big. The rich girl was suddenly submerged in the sea of breasts, drifting with the waves to the ends of the world. Save me. When Chi Kamaya took care of everything at the fastest speed, and then came back with Ghost Baby, intending to tell Kelowna that the Shinryu could set off, he found that Longshaw was lying on the floor at this time. Her hands were randomly flapping, like a drowning person. Could it be that Lord Long is practicing some kind of technique? Ghost Baby asked hesitantly. Chi Kamaya pondered for a moment, and then suddenly said, It is said that Shan Tuan has a technique that can only be practiced in his sleep. Could it be this one? Should we wake up Lord Long? Ghost Baby shook his head. Of course, go wake her up. Chi Kamaya thought for a moment and said. Ghost Baby pointed at himself expressionlessly. Chi Kamaya nodded affirmatively. Ghost Baby rolled his eyes, turned around, and walked out, letting Chi Kamaya die. About half an hour later, the people of Xianyuan Palace rode on the flying demon beast and set off. On the back of the flying demon beast, the disguised Jessica curiously looked at Chi-Chi Kamaya, whose left eye was black, and asked, "Lord Turtle, why are you injured?" "I am practicing a peerless technique." Chi-Chi Kamaya sat cross-legged with a calm face. After this peerless technique is mastered, it can shock the heavens and crack the earth. A black eye is the symbol of this technique. When both my eyes are black, my eyes can shoot out black flames and burn the earth. So powerful. Kelowna's technique is really powerful. Even her gaze can kill people. Miss Jessica was stunned by his words. She subconsciously looked back, only to see the legendary Kelowna Shinryu hanging behind the flying demon beast and seemed to be muttering something. However, the wind was too loud, and she couldn't hear anything clearly, but seemed to be cursing. She actually said that I'm only good at damn it, this damn bad woman. Jessica felt a strong murderous aura because of this. "You are back." In front of the second-hand electrical shop in the alley, the college girl Bibi walked out of the half-open door and took the food in Mr. Kim's hand. "I came back late. Did something happen on the way?" "Nothing. I was walking and forgot the time." Mr. Kim shook his head and said. At this time, the girl Bibi was curiously looking behind Mr. Kim. There was a dejected pastoral dog. It looked interesting, so I picked it up. Mr. Kim said casually, "Maybe it is a monster, but it can't turn into a human in the city. Who knows?" The girl Bibi was startled, and then shook her head. "If it was a monster, it would have died long ago." "Mr. Kim, you're joking again. Has Lawrence and the others returned?" Mr. Kim suddenly asked. "They are all back in the workshop downstairs." The girl Bibi smiled and said, "Lawrence seems to be in a good mood. He should have bought a lot of useful things, but Maeve and Chingwood don't seem to be in a good mood. Get some food for it." Mr. Kim gave the leash to Bibi, opened the floor under the counter, and walked down. The person in charge of gathering information was called Bernard, and he had several degrees in science and engineering. As for Lawrence, he was originally an arms dealer, and later he was the only one left on the streets. Maeve was simpler. She used to be a prostitute who went astray. Chingwa was about the same age as Bibi and was a stage actress. How did these people get together? Just a few months ago, they were all very ordinary members of the common people. Mr. Kim looked at the busy people in the workshop, and this question couldn't help but appear in his mind. At this moment, Maeve saw that Mr. Kim had returned and said directly, "Guogua and I have been watching for a whole day. The number of guards at the venue has obviously increased, and the intensity of the inspection has also increased. Not to mention sneaking in, we might not even find a chance in the outer areas. We shouldn't have launched this attack. It made them more vigilant." "That's good," Mr. Kim said indifferently. "When people only focus on one place, they will subconsciously ignore other things. Do you actually have some other plan that you haven't told us?" Bernard stopped typing on the keyboard. "You will know very soon," Mr. Kim said indifferently, and then looked around. "Remember, what I want to do is the same as all of you. I have long been prepared to not give up no matter what the sacrifice is, right?" Maeve shrugged. "I've sweated all day. I'm going to take a shower." Mr. Kim didn't say anything, and quickly returned to the small house by himself, locking the door. He pushed the messy table to an empty space, and then took out the new medicine bottle, poured out the pills inside, and then carefully counted the quantity. After a while, Mr. Kim took out another bottle. It was the one he had been using. He still poured out the pills and also counted them. Suddenly, Mr. Kim frowned. He realized that one of the pills in his bottle was missing at some point in time. "I don't think I ate too much." Mr. Kim couldn't help but frown at this time. Outside the second-hand electrical appliance store, a short-haired woman came in when the last ray of the setting sun disappeared from the alley. She put her hands in her pockets, looking down at the shutter of the electrical appliance store, the lock on it. Now, she seemed to be unable to resist inserting the keyhole when she saw it. She just couldn't stop. Nan Xiaonan, is that at the origin of the pill? When he took a closer look, he could see that there was actually a great clear pill hidden in her hair. "I'm emotionless. Okay, stop talking." Chapter 1945. Bei cut a piece of meat from the frozen steak and waved it in front of the pastoral dog. The meat wriggled like an earthworm, but the pastoral dog didn't seem to have a high appetite to the extent that it didn't even have any. Ever since it was tricked into this second-hand electrical shop, it had been crawling in a corner. There was even a shelf next to it. It had completely hidden itself in this narrow but unusually safe place. I thought I was already shut in, but I didn't expect you to be even more shut in than me. What's your name? I'll call you Xiao Bei, okay? Bei squatted down and cupped his chin with his hands. My name is Bei. Hello. The pastoral dog, Xiao Bei, who had just gotten a name, didn't seem to hear anything. It didn't even raise its drooping ears. It really looked like a useless dog. However, the girl seemed to have turned on a switch and started talking to herself. In the end, Xiao Bei still didn't eat the beef. Suddenly, the sound of the door being knocked came from outside. The girl who was talking to herself stood up in an instant. In the instant that she stood up, she held the knife used to cut the beef and pressed it against her arm. His gaze also became abnormally cold. At this moment, Xiao Bei opened his eyes slightly. After taking a look, he went back to his original state, as if he had lost interest in life. The sound of the door being knocked hadn't stopped yet. Bei walked closer and put his ear closer to the door, listening carefully. At the same time, he looked at the scene on the screen. The person knocking on the door was a girl with short hair. Bei frowned. After thinking for a while, he pulled down his sleeve and hid the knife in his hand as he opened the side door. What's the matter? We're already closed. Bei looked at the short-haired girl and said apologetically. A relatively young girl walked out. She looked to be around 19 or 20 years old. Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth and said, I saw that your lights were still on, so I wanted to find something. Bei frowned and said, Find something? Nan Xiaonan nodded and said, I wanted to get a second-hand washing machine. I got off work too late, and the other places were all closed. I just happened to see that there's still light on here, so I had to give it a try. You know that there's a curfew at night, so it's not convenient to buy things. Washing machine? Nan Xiaonan nodded and said, I just started working here. I rented an apartment in the village in the city over there. I haven't even packed my things yet. There are too many things to wash. A semi-automatic one is fine too. Use it first. Sorry, we don't have the washing machine you want here. Bei shook his head. If that's the case, Nan Xiaonan said regretfully, then can I go in and take a look? I want to see if there are any cheap and useful home appliances. I think I need an induction cooker too. No. Bei still shook his head. You should go somewhere else tomorrow. I'm going to close the shop. Pretty girl, just let me have a look. It's very hard for us, who are new to the Labor Party. It's such a big second-hand shop. There must be an induction cooker or something, right? Nan Xiaonan said bitterly. What happened? At this moment, a man's voice came from the second-hand electrical appliance store. Bei hurriedly looked in. Boss, there's a lady here who says she wants to come in and buy something. What do you want to buy? Nan Xiaonan poked her head in while Bei wasn't paying attention. Washing machine and induction cooker. You're the boss? Do me a favor. I just moved here. My landlord is so stingy. It's really inconvenient tonight. Bei frowned and directly grabbed Nan Xiaonan's arm. Let her in. The man in the store, Boss Jean, said indifferently. Boss is still a good person. At this moment, Nan Xiaonan giggled as she lightly slapped away Bei's hand that was grabbing her and directly entered the electrical appliance store. We have the things you want here, Boss Jean said indifferently. But it's so late. How are you going to carry them back? At this time, you won't be able to call for people to pick them up. There's no one on the streets at night. It's okay, it's not far. It's just across the road. I can carry them myself. Nan Xiaonan patted her biceps and said, Ever since I fell out of love, I've gained muscle. The next time I see my ex-boyfriend, I'll definitely beat him to death. Boss Jean looked at her expressionlessly. Then, he slowly walked to one side and took out an old induction cooker from the shelf. He pointed to the other side and said, There's only this induction cooker. There are 3 washing machines here. You could take the one you like. How much is this? Nan Xiaonan directly pointed to the one in the middle and asked. $150. Boss Jean said indifferently, no bargaining. If you want it, take it. If you don't, close the door. Boss, you do business? Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth. Boss Jean stared at her without saying a word. Nan Xiaonan could only say, including this induction cooker, how about 180? Mr. Jean suddenly asked, where do you live? Nan Xiaonan said casually, in the village in the city across the road. It's not very far. Mr. Jean said indifferently, give me 230 and I'll carry it over for you. Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth as if she was caught unprepared. At the same time, Bei Bei was slowly approaching from behind. The light of a lethal weapon could be seen in his hand. He had already quietly raised the knife behind Nan Xiaonan's back. Nan Xiaonan opened her mouth and said, it's just crossing the road, and you want to charge me 50? Boss, you're too deceptive. Do you think I'm a foreigner, so you're bullying me? Then tell me how much. Boss Jean said indifferently, 30. Nan Xiaonan clenched her teeth. If it's this price, then I'll carry it myself. Then 30. Boss Jean nodded. Bei Bei was startled, but in the end, he quietly moved back a little. The tip of the knife silently moved away from Nan Xiaonan's neck. Nan Xiaonan grinned. Anyway, Boss Jean, right? Can I pay 10 yuan for this old fan? You're very greedy. Boss Jean said suddenly. Nan Xiaonan blinked her eyes. Women are all greedy, but little women are even greedier. Take it. Boss Jean said indifferently. What else do you want? Take it all. We may not open tomorrow. Not for now. Bei Bei, you carry these two things. Boss Jean said directly, I'll carry the big ones. The wheels of the handcart made a particularly loud sound on the street. Boss Jean pulled the washing machine and walked in front of them. By the way, I'm Nan Xiaonan, and you? Nan Xiaonan and Bei Bei were walking together on the footbridge that led to the opposite side of the road. Bei Bei, what a cute name. Nan Xiaonan smiled, then lowered her voice and said, your boss doesn't seem to like to talk much. He's quite fierce. Bei Bei smiled. The boss doesn't like to talk much, but he's very nice. Nan Xiaonan nodded, then asked casually, your second-hand shop has been open for a long time, right? Are you locals? It's been a while. Bei Bei said casually, we're not from here, so we're not very familiar with this place. It's not safe in the city recently, so we don't dare to run around. That's right. Nan Xiaonan complained bitterly. It's hard to find a job. It's not easy to find one, but the salary is only a little bit. All right, I heard that the nearby one-mansion spa center is hiring. Do you know about it? What do you think of that place? Is it decent? This? I'm not sure. Bei Bei shook his head. Do you want to work in that kind of place? I'm just asking. Nan Xiaonan smiled casually. At this moment, Boss Jean suddenly stopped. We've crossed the road. Where should we go in? Follow the arch. It's about 100 meters away. It's on the third floor, not very high. Nan Xiaonan said quickly. It's just that the corridor is a bit narrow. It's okay. It didn't say anything else, and they covered the distance of 100 meters in a moment. It was an old house in a narrow alley, nothing special. Boss Jean didn't say anything, but directly carried the washing machine and went up the corridor. He stopped in front of the iron door on the third floor, then said indifferently, open the door. Nan Xiaonan said, wait a moment, I'll clean it up. It's a bit messy inside. Nan Xiaonan quickly opened the door and then directly entered the rented house and closed the door. Unexpectedly, Boss Jean at this time suddenly stretched out his hand, grabbed the door panel, and directly pushed the door panel open with force. What are you doing? I told you to wait a moment. Nan Xiaonan screamed as if her tail had been stepped on. Boss Jean opened his mouth, but didn't say anything, and let Nan Xiaonan close the door again. This woman is quite sloppy, Bei Bei said coldly. The moment Boss Jean opened the door, she saw the inside of the house clearly. It was indeed a mess, and there were several red, purple, and black underwear hanging on the wall. It seems that she's really here to buy things, Bei Bei said in a low voice. Let's wait and see, Boss Jean said indifferently. Bei Bei nodded silently. After a while, Nan Xiaonan opened the door again. One room, one bathroom, and there wasn't even a so-called kitchen, only a small table with some convenient kitchen utensils in the room. The clothes on the anti-theft net at the window had been collected. This was a typical single-person dormitory in a village in the city. It was dark, humid, and stuffy. Boss Jean didn't say anything and directly carried the washing machine inside, then began to install it. It's a bit messy, sorry. It's okay. They talked about some unimportant things outside. It seemed that it was easier for women to communicate with each other. Sister Xiaonan, why did you think of coming here to work? I'm looking forward to the big city. Nan Xiaonan opened a bottle of beer and sat down, looking up at the window, and said, I've been looking forward to it since I was young, but when I came to the big city, I found it was just like that. Your family? I don't have a family. Nan Xiaonan shook her head. One person can eat his fill, and the whole family won't be hungry. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Yes. Nan Xiaonan shook her head, her eyes downcast. It's okay, I've been used to it. I almost don't remember what my parents look like. This key. Bei curiously looked at the key pendant around Nan Xiaonan's neck. This? Nan Xiaonan lowered her head, fiddling with the key pendant, then shook her head and put it away. It's not important, I just bought it because it looks special. Bei didn't ask further. It's done. Take a look. If there's no problem, we'll leave. Boss Jean directly walked out at this moment, quite straightforward. Nan Xiaonan said there was no problem after checking it. So Boss Jean directly left with Bei, still very straightforward. Thank you. If I need anything else, I'll come to you again, boss. Remember to give me a good price. She watched the two leave in the corridor. Downstairs, Boss Jean raised his head and looked around, only to see Bei come back after making a round. He shook his head and said, Nothing suspicious. Boss Jean directly walked into a small store, looking at an auntie with a waste bag in front of the counter, asking, Are you the landlord of this building? Housekeeper? The auntie looked at him with confusion. I want to ask you something. Boss Jean thought for a while. The woman on the third floor, did she just move here? The auntie frowned and said vigilantly, Why do you ask this? At this moment, Bei hurriedly walked over and intimately held on a Boss Jin's arm. She smiled sweetly and said, It's like this, Lady Boss. This is my big brother. He just bumped into that big sister upstairs. She's a little interesting, so he wants to ask about her. My elder brother is very nice, but his family is a bit anxious. So, is he himself? Can you do me a favor? She gave the lady boss some consultation fees discreetly. You don't look like bad people. The auntie took out the money with a smile, then sighed. Speaking of which, this girl is quite pitiful. She's been looking for a house here for several days, but she didn't find it expensive, so she didn't get it. I thought she was quite pitiful, so I rented it to her at a cheap price. Is her life very miserable? Bei asked curiously. She lost her parents a long time ago. It's miserable enough. The auntie sighed. Look, she had a boyfriend who was about to get married, but he suddenly passed away a few months ago. I don't know the exact reason, and it's not good to ask, right? This girl doesn't have it easy. That day when she moved in, there was a pile of stuff downstairs. I kindly wanted to help her call someone to carry it upstairs, but she insisted on carrying it all by herself. She's very tired and actually didn't save much money. Bei and Boss Jean looked at each other. Then Bei smiled. Then, Madam, do you know where she works? I'm not very sure, but these days she goes out early in the morning and comes back around this time. All right. Thank you, Lady Boss. Bei nodded at this moment. I have her phone number. Do you want it? Just don't tell her that I told you. The Almighty said with a smile. No need. Bei said casually. It's more sincere to ask this kind of thing personally. Sorry to disturb you, madam. You're welcome. Come to my shop often in the future. Many girls passed by here before. They had already walked away. Bei was in charge of cooking. A group of people sat around a wooden table and ate, not talking much. Maeve was eating and asked curiously, Where's the boss? Doesn't he eat? I don't know. He went to the small room after coming back. Bei shook his head. They looked at Boss Jin's small room at the same time. He never let people in. Of course, there were no secrets inside. After all, they had just come to this second-hand shop, including Mr. Jean himself. It was only half a month ago that he bought this second-hand shop. Speaking of which, isn't this dog a little ugly? Is it? It's called Xiaobei. Bei protested. How is it ugly? Just like that. They talked about random things as if they were family. Their voices didn't reach the small room. Even if they did, Mr. Jean probably couldn't hear them clearly, because he was wearing headphones at the moment, and there was an open suitcase on the table. Eavesdropping equipment. Dead cockroach. I'll beat you to death. I'll beat you to death. You're still running. You're still running. Die. My leg. I'm alone. I'll eat instant noodles. Of course, I'll have a slice of cheese. This trashy TV series is getting uglier and uglier. If I continue to be a member, I'll be a pig. The sound of eating noodles. All of a sudden, the chattering stopped, and there was complete silence. Mr. Jean frowned, reaching out to turn the knob in the suitcase. Then, a sobbing sound slowly entered his ears. It rushed into his heart. Chapter 1946. Speaking of which, I saw your Auntie Ollie yesterday. During dinner, Auntie Rin suddenly mentioned this matter. It was a common meal. It wasn't as rich as Ian last night, but the taste was still very delicious. Auntie Run, who came after a day of work, had already eaten 2 bowls. Actually, Ollie was about the same age as Auntie Run. She was far from Auntie Ren's age, but when Auntie Ren said this, it really sounded like an old auntie. Really, it was a little unexpected, but not very surprising. Boss Luo nodded and asked simply, "What did you talk about? What do we have to talk about?" Auntie Ren rolled her eyes and said, "That stinky woman always wants to scold me when she sees me. I get angry every time I talk about it. If you ever meet her one day, remember my words, just call her Big Annie. At least call her Auntie Annie. Call her Auntie Run. Who is this Auntie Ollie?" Lizzie's eyes were burning with the fire of gossip at this time. There were a few pears stuck to the corner of her mouth, but she looked no different from usual. She seemed to have forgotten what happened this morning and returned to her carefree character. "You're just a bad woman. Why do you know so much?" Auntie Run glanced at her. Lizzie knew that Sister Run was usually not to be trifled with, so she didn't ask and casually changed the topic. "Speaking of which, the inspection of the venue seems to be a lot stricter today. I heard that at noon, a guest house for foreign diplomatic groups was attacked, and the entire hall of the guest house was blown up. Fortunately, there were no casualties." "Yes." Auntie Rin nodded and immediately looked at her future daughter-in-law, who she liked more and more, and said, "Don't go out if there's nothing to do these few days. I heard that starting tomorrow, all the main streets near the venue will be closed. The businesses and shops there have been notified to temporarily suspend business. I won't go out if there's nothing important," Luaccio said indifferently. Perhaps this topic was too boring. Auntie Rin suddenly looked at the servant girl and smiled. "Speaking of which, we have known each other for so long. Yi, where's your family?" Perhaps she subconsciously ignored it, or perhaps she didn't want to be too enthusiastic and make the girl feel pressured. Auntie Rin suddenly realized that she didn't know anything about her future daughter-in-law's family situation. According to what she occasionally learned from her son, Miss Servant Girl's situation was as follows. She was the descendant of an ancient and declining noble family who had inherited a large amount of money, a rich woman. "If it's convenient, can I pay a visit to your house?" At this time, Auntie Rin put her chopsticks on her lips and looked at the servant girl with watery eyes. She looked pitiful and anxious, like a child looking at the ice cream in the servant girl's hand. Luaccio suddenly smiled. He didn't want to say anything. He wanted to see how Miss Maid would deal with this matter. "If Sister Rin wants to go, of course, you can go at any time." The servant girl smiled and said, "But your family probably won't be able to see it. As long as you can go." Auntie Rin nodded with satisfaction. She was really satisfied. It was said that they were talking about marriage. This was what it meant to talk about marriage. Then it's decided. Therefore, the hostess of this family directly slapped the table. "After this interview, I'll take a vacation and go to your house. Speaking of which," the servant girl suddenly said softly, "I haven't been back for a long time." Boss Luo was stunned. "Haven't been back for a long time?" Suddenly, a long sound rang in the city. It was the sound during the curfew. It was earlier than usual, half an hour earlier. From now on, it would be 13 hours until the Transcendent Summit officially opened tomorrow morning. For ordinary people, it would be over after playing a few rounds of games and sleeping. But for Transcendents, especially for the diplomatic group that participated in this summit. It would probably be an extremely long 13 hours. At night, outside the city, the Great Peace Hotel, opened by Old Zhang's family, was filled with a monstrous aura. The family leaders of the four mythical beasts could restrain their monstrous aura, but the members of the family couldn't. Even if the monstrous aura leaked out occasionally, it would alarm the weak people within a radius of dozens of miles. They gathered here, but Gongsun Shiyu wasn't present this time. But none of the four family leaders or the acting family leader took the initiative to speak, but they knew that they had to give an answer to Gongsun Shiyu's request before the end of the night. We should already have an answer in our hearts. It's not a good idea to drag it on like this. Song Jinshui of Green Dragon directly broke the silence. My purpose is very simple. I want to cripple the Kelowna administration and avenge my father. At the same time, I want to change the situation of Green Dragon Tribe. We need more land. We don't want to be trapped in the remote mountains. Song Jinshui, do you really want to cooperate with Gongsun Shiyu? Ming Tu Shan of Black Tortoise frowned. Green Dragon Tribe might not be able to bear the consequences. I don't think you need me to tell you how terrifying Shinryu's fury is. Then let her never leave this city. Song Jinshui said in a deep voice, just like what Gongsun said. Shinryu of Kelowna is just an ordinary person with a slightly better physique. As long as the four families unite, the entire Demon League will be under our control. We need to assess the risk. Chu Xinghe of Vermilion Bird shook his head. What we have to face is not only Shinryu, but also the entire Taoist sect, the administration, and even more transcendence in the world. It's better not to act rashly. The acting clan leader of the White Tiger clan suddenly said, "Everyone, listen to me. Since ancient times, there has been a rule that no one is allowed to step into the territory of the Divine Prefecture. Although the Divine Prefecture has been invaded in the past few years, it was only limited to the flames of war of the humans. The Divine Land is a place that those fellows from the outside will never be able to set foot in. Even if the envoys from various countries die here, the enraged countries will never be able to set foot in here, as long as the true dragon's power remains." Ming Tu Shan smiled bitterly. "If we can trap Shinryu in the city, we'll have completely turned against Shinryu. Let me ask you, when the transcendents of various countries come knocking on our door for revenge, will you still have the face to ask her to come out? We don't need that kind of thing." The chief of the White Tigers sneered. "If Shinryu doesn't make a move, then she can only watch as Kelowna is burned by the transcendents. She can't just stand by and watch. No matter how unwilling she is, she's still the gateway to Kelowna. When we defeat the Administrative Bureau and the Taoist sects this time, the demons all over the Divine Land will rebel together and take over the territories one by one. Unless the humans are willing to throw those forbidden weapons over their cities and are willing to kill hundreds of thousands or even millions of their own citizens." Ming Tu Shan's old eyes glanced at Song Jinshui and the chief of the White Tigers. "Looks like you're on the same side." The four divine beasts have always been on the same side since ancient times. Song Jinshui said calmly, "In ancient times, we four divine beasts were worshipped by the humans. How glorious that was." Ming Tu Shan, are you willing to let your Black Tortoise tribe's last chance to turn the tables be destroyed in your hands and become a sinner for all eternity? You all call me a tortoise. Actually, it doesn't matter because I'm really a tortoise. Ming Tu Shan shook his head. I'm also old, older than the three of you combined. I'm really an old man. I'm not as brave and resourceful as you young and strong people. Besides, most of the people in the Black Tortoise clan are trash who have no ambition and only know how to eat and sleep. They really can't be of much help. With the name of the Four Spirits Divine Continent, this old man is truly ashamed. You don't agree? Song Jinshui narrowed his eyes. Ming Tu Shan shook his head. I know that if I don't agree, I won't be able to walk out of this door. If the three of you attack at the same time, this tortoise shell of mine won't be able to withstand it. How about this? From now on, I won't walk out of this Peace Hotel. I'm willing to be in prison here and won't reveal anything about you. How about it? If you succeed, then the Black Tortoise tribe will naturally follow your lead. If you fail, I'm willing to bear the same crime as you. Song Jinshui and the White Tiger Tribe leader glanced at each other. They knew that Chu Xinghe, who hadn't expressed his stance, was actually closer to them. It was just that he was still wavering. They needed to quickly take down Ming Tushan and force Chu Xinghe to make the final decision. Sorry. Song Jinshui took a deep breath. As one of the 4 divine races, I can't make things difficult for you. Ming Tushan, my green dragon seal will temporarily be on your body. White tiger seal too. Facing the gazes of Song Jinshui and the White Tiger Tribe leader, Chu Xinghe finally said slowly, "And my vermilion bird seal." "Oh Ming, I'm sorry." "It's nothing." Ming Tushan smiled bitterly. "It's rare that you're willing to let me make such a good plan. I'll just be trapped for a few days. What else can I say? Do it." 3 god seals, 3 seals unique to the 4 divine beasts, were applied on Ming Tushan at the same time. He didn't resist at all and allowed the seals to hit him. Actually, it's similar to being in the city. After being sealed, Ming Tushan moved his body. Apart from being unable to use demonic power and feeling a little weak, he didn't feel too uncomfortable. In a moment, the 3 of us will work together to release a barrier, Song Jinshui said indifferently. This way, all of you from the Black Tortoise race cannot leave this restaurant for the time being. Ming Tushan didn't say anything. This was how he chose to live. He naturally didn't intend to ask for more. There's no need to go through the trouble of releasing a barrier. At this moment, a cold voice sounded in their ears. This was clearly Gong Sun Shiyu's voice. However, compared to the sudden appearance of the voice, what frightened them even more was the sword light that pierced through Ming Tushan's body from behind. Those who don't know how to speak are the safest. With a wave of the sword light, Ming Tushan's body was instantly cut open. Blood splattered everywhere and stained the walls, the floor, and the bodies and faces of the 3 tribe leaders and the acting tribe leader. All of this happened too quickly, too suddenly. They even waited for the drops of blood on their faces to cool before coming to their senses. I wasn't in a very good mood. I'm much better now. Everyone, please forgive me, Gong Sun Shiyu said indifferently. Gong Sun Shiyu, you actually... Chu Xinghe of the Vermilion Bird race suddenly stood up, so angry that his entire body trembled. Gong Sun Shiyu slowly wiped his sword and slowly walked over. It wasn't a wasted lunch. You don't want to take responsibility, but you do want to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. You think it's fine, but I don't. Besides, without your 3-spirit seal, Ming Tushan wouldn't have died so easily under my sword. So, if you really want to pursue the matter, I'm afraid you won't be able to escape the blame. Chu Xinghe immediately sat down powerlessly. This matter had already exceeded his original expectations. Ming Tushan died here. It can't be hidden. If this matter is leaked, the entire Black Tortoise race won't let it go so easily. We'll just return Ming Tushan to them, Gong Sun Shiyu said indifferently. Return? How? Chu Xinghe immediately laughed coldly. You've already personally cut it in half. That's enough. Gong Sun Shiyu laughed lightly. Accompanied by his laughter, Gong Sun Shiyu's face actually started to change. The bones in his body even started to creak. His body actually became crooked. Not long after, an identical Ming Tu mountain appeared in front of them. Shrinking bones and changing one's appearance isn't difficult for warriors who can completely control their bodies. As for bone-shrinking techniques and appearance-changing techniques, Xianyuan Palace doesn't lack records. Gong Sun Shiyu said indifferently. This is a true physical transformation. Even if you enter the city, you won't be affected. Seeing that the 3 acting patriarchs were all silent, the acting patriarchs didn't say anything. Gong Sun Shiyu, who had successfully transformed into Ming Tushan, laughed lightly and said, "What? Are you afraid that I'll become like you in the future?" Song Jinshui sneered. All powers in the city are sealed. Even Yao Qi doesn't exist. You can still play like this. Why don't you try it outside? So what are you afraid of? Gong Sun Shiyu laughed. After all, I can only play like this in the city. I still don't understand. Chu Xinghe glanced at Ming Tushan's corpse. A trace of pity flashed in his eyes. Gongsun Shiyu, you're the son of the Qian division of Xianyuan Palace. Why would you do such a thing? Xianyuan Palace's Qian and Kuan divisions, the Gongsun clan, and the Xianyuan Palace's monsters have always been at odds. Everyone knows that. Can you really help us monsters? It's very simple, Gongsun Shiyu said indifferently. The Gongsun clan is no longer willing to just be a subject of Xianyuan Palace. Are you satisfied with this explanation? The Gongsun clan of Xianyuan Palace wanted to rebel? Chu Xinghe and Song Jinshui were both shocked. At this moment, the substitute clan leader of the White Tiger clan suddenly bowed. The White Tiger clan is willing to help young Master Siyu ascend to the throne of Xianyuan Palace. You've already joined him. The substitute clan leader of the White Tiger clan said indifferently, I'm just a person who understands the situation. You're all searching for the future of your clansmen. I'm the same. I'm not Imperial Uncle Fu. I'm that brute who only knows how to hold on to the glory of the White Tiger clan and try to suppress the world with his fists. That's all. Since young Master Siyu has already told you his thoughts tonight, you should think carefully about whether you can walk out of this door. Song Jinshui was the most easily angered. If I want to leave, I'm afraid you might not be able to stay. Ming Tushan died unjustly, but that's all. The Green Dragon clan, Gongsun Shiyu suddenly said, but they guard the east of Kelowna. They're the divine beasts revered by millions of people. They're high and mighty. Song Jinshui's eyes narrowed. His expression changed several times. Finally, he gritted his teeth and said, Fire Cloud, evil god's life is mine. I'll personally chop off his head. Okay. Seeing this, Chu Xinghe helplessly lowered his hand. He smiled bitterly and said, The Vermilion Bird clan will temporarily cooperate with young Master Siyu. Very good. Dear passengers, the plane is about to descend. Please be prepared. The broadcast sounded. At this moment, a book slowly slid down from the young man's face and finally fell to the ground with a paw sound. The young man, Natsuya Suzuki, casually yawned. He saw the child beside him was leaning against the window, looking outside, under the ground at the city lights. Little brat, sit tight and fasten your seatbelt, he said in an unfriendly tone, but the child didn't seem to hear him. He was still leaning against the window. Seeing this, Natsuya Suzuki couldn't do anything. He showed an extremely impatient expression. He directly held the child's waist and lifted him up. Then he put him on the seat and fastened his seatbelt. His action was very rough. His expression was very ferocious and scary, but he still did it. On the side seat, a young man with gold-rimmed glasses was trembling. He lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Natsuya Suzuki and this strange child. He was Master Che Tion's male assistant. Master, are we really going with this guy? The male assistant asked in a trembling voice. However, Master Che Tion didn't seem to hear him. He lowered his head and drew something in his notebook. It looked like a sketch of a woman. Why not? Master Che Tion's pen stopped, and he smiled. After all, it cost a lot to hire him, although I don't know how much. The male assistant was stunned. He couldn't change Master Che Tion's decision. He could only shake his head. By the way, Master, who are you drawing? Is it a new character? Her name? Her? Master Che Tion looked down and smiled mysteriously. She is a story. Lamia's her name. Chapter 1947. Peace Hotel. In order to prevent the fake Ming Tushan from being seen through by the members of the Black Tortoise clan, the meeting between the four clan leaders was maintained. But they did not have any more conversations. What do you want to do? The acting clan leader of the White Tiger clan suddenly said. Chu Xinghe of the Vermilion Bird clan slowly walked to the side of Ming Tushan's corpse. This caused Song Jinshui and Gongsun Shiyu to look over. Chu Xinghe said indifferently, Elder Ming and I have known each other for so long. He can be considered an elder. Can you bear to see his corpse placed here and do nothing? Saying so, without waiting for them to react, Chu Xinghe quickly put away Ming Tushan's corpse. Chu Xinghe turned his back to them and quietly placed his palm on Ming Tushan's heart, saying indifferently, Elder Ming, I'm sorry. The only thing I could do is to wrap your corpse. If we succeed in the future, my Vermilion Bird clan owes your Black Tortoise clan. I, Chu Xinghe, swear that I will not let anyone invade your Black Tortoise clan for no reason. Humph. Song Jin Shui sneered. Do you think my Azure Dragon clan will invade your Black Tortoise clan for no reason? As he spoke, Song Jin Shui suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed. Immediately, a huge force lifted Chu Xinghe, who was caught off guard, away. This ferocious grabbing force even directly took something from Chu Xinghe's palm. A weak ball of light. Chu Xinghe was shocked. Song Jin Shui, you really want to be so ruthless? Since you don't plan to turn back, then don't let any risk appear. Song Jin Shui held the ball of light and said indifferently, Elder Ming's 3 souls and 7 spirits don't need to be left behind. Just remember this enmity on my head. Saying so, under Chu Xinghe's shocked gaze, Song Jin Shui directly crushed the ball of light in his hand. Starlight sparkled. Why did my old man die on Mount Tai? Song Jin Shui said indifferently. It's because he didn't do things ruthlessly enough. Those who achieve great things don't be influenced by personal feelings. Remember, you and I are shouldering the future of our respective races. Chu Xinghe's face turned pale, and he wanted to rush out of the door. It is not time to leave yet. Where is Master Chu in a hurry to go? The White Tiger's temporary tribe leader asked calmly. Why don't you stay? Mr. Siyu still has something to say. Chu Xinghe bitterly turned around. Gong Sun Shiyu, who had transformed into the dark Tussle Mountain, slowly said, Clan leader Song Jin Shui, you did things more decisively than I thought. I was planning to release the souls of the dead in the dark Tussle Mountain. Song Jin Shui laughed coldly, almost in disdain. We originally wanted to imprison the dark Tussle Mountain, not kill it. Gong Sun Shiyu smiled indifferently. Soon after, he waved his hand, and 3 pearls shot towards Song Jin Shui and the other 2. Wear this on your body. As long as you are within 5 meters of the poison, you will be safe and sound when it is released. There aren't many things, so don't leave them behind. Only 3. Chu Xinghe frowned. What about the Black Tortoise clan? Gong Sun Shiyu said casually. What are you talking about? High Priest Chu, wasn't the Black Tortoise clan by my side during the meeting? Do you have any other questions? Chu Xinghe sat down without saying anything. Gong Sun Shiyu smiled and said, Then after dawn, let's depart together. It won't be long. On the way back, Kelowna, Shinryu, and the Xianyuan Palace's delegation did not see Yin Xiaoxi. Instead, they saw Fire Cloud, Evil God. Fire Cloud greets Elder Gui of the Xianyuan Palace. No need to be so polite. Chichi Kamaya casually cupped his hands. Then, he looked around and said indifferently, There is one thing I don't understand. Why did Mr. Fire Cloud want to meet us here? Is it because our Xianyuan Palace is so unbearable that we can't be seen by the world? It wasn't in the temporary command center of the agency, nor was it in a hotel. It wasn't even a restaurant. It was just in an unfinished building at a construction site. It was so secretive that it looked like a meeting between undercover agents. It's really inconvenient inside the agency right now. Fire Cloud, Evil God, smiled bitterly and said, There are some discordant voices among us. To avoid trouble, I can only do this. Fire Cloud, I don't mean to look down on the Xianyuan Palace. I have no choice but to do this. Old man, don't talk nonsense. Shinryu of Kelowna said directly, I'm done here. It's your turn now. Where is Yin Xiaoxi? Fire Cloud, Evil God said, Xiaoxi has another mission at the moment, so she can't show herself. Lord Long, please forgive her. However, I'll tell you what Lord Long wants to know. It's about Gong Sun Shiyu, Long Shua said directly. Fire Cloud, Evil God, told her everything that happened during the day. Apart from Yin Xiaoxi's current whereabouts, he did not hide anything else. He spoke very quickly, in less than 10 minutes. In other words, Gong Sun Shiyu has appeared and colluded with some members of the agency? Long Shua frowned and said, Old man, you're really something. You even found a traitor. It must be because you guys are too harsh. Lord Long, what are you talking about? We're all paid by the government. We've done our best, and the government has never mistreated us. Fire Cloud, evil god, smiled bitterly and said, "Besides, isn't Lord Long also one of the agency's top advisors? Are you saying that I'm to blame for anything that happens?" Kelowna of Shinryu snorted and said, "I'm just a figurehead who doesn't do any work. Don't you know that?" Fire Cloud, evil god, shook his head and said, "Let's talk about Gongsun Shiyu. Elder Turtle, I just want to know what the Xianyuan Palace thinks about Gongsun Shiyu. Is this just Gongsun Shiyu's personal action, or is it the Xianyuan Palace's Qian clan's intention?" Chi-Chi Kamaya said, "At this time, the Xianyuan Palace has no opinion." Fire Cloud, evil god, frowned and said, "Elder Turtle, why do you say that?" Chi-Chi Kamaya said slowly, "Because Gongsun Shiyu died a few months ago, and I personally buried him. Everyone in the Xianyuan Palace can testify to this." "What?" Fire Cloud, evil god, was stunned. "Gongsun Shiyu died a few months ago. It should be true." Long Shirua nodded. "Chi-Chi Kamaya wouldn't lie to me about this, and there's no reason for him to lie to me. It's up to you to believe it or not. Could there be a second Gongsun Shiyu in this world?" Fire Cloud, evil god, said in surprise. "Or is it just the same? Or is it just borrowing Gongsun Shiyu's appearance?" "Wait." Fire Cloud, evil god's expression suddenly changed, as if he thought of something, and he didn't say anything. Kelowna's Shinryu looked at him in surprise and asked curiously, "Old man, did you think of something?" Fire Cloud, evil god, thought for a while and said, "Lord Long, do you remember when I looked for you in the afternoon? What was recorded in the Jade Scroll?" "I haven't seen it yet." Kelowna's Shinryu immediately squinted. "Busy. No time." He really didn't have time. He was really busy. After returning from the Ghost City, he remembered Gongsun Shiyu's matter and went to the Xianyuan Palace again. If it wasn't for Tianxin's signature. In short, he was really busy. The Jade Scroll mentioned that the club has a very mature cloning technology. The evil god of Fire Cloud pretended that he did not see the true dragon squint and compose himself. Since the creation of the Prometheus, it has been mass-produced using this technology, but the Jade Scroll did not mention where the factory is. "You mean cloning?" Long Shirua was startled. "Are you saying that Gongsun Shiyu might have something to do with the club?" "This is just a guess without any basis." Fire Cloud, evil god, shook his head. "It's just a whim, a worst-case scenario." Chi-Chi Kamaya frowned and said, "Lord Long, is the club the princess is going to take revenge on? Does the club have a grudge against the Xianyuan Palace?" Fire Cloud, evil god's eyes lit up. "Let's talk about this later." Kelowna's Shinryu shook his head and looked at the time. "The meeting will begin in less than 10 hours. Old man, you didn't ask me to meet Chi-Chi Kamaya just to exchange information, right?" Fire Cloud, evil god, nodded and said, "Lord Long understands me. I do have a favor to ask of Lord Long. Now that Elder Turtle is involved, it might be better." Long Shirua frowned and said, "Let's hear it first." Fire Cloud, evil god, suddenly said, "It's about the proposal Lord Long gave me earlier. I hope that Lord Long can bring it up on the last day of the meeting and keep it a secret. At that time, I hope that the Xianyuan Palace can agree to this proposal." "Old man, are you serious?" Long Shirua couldn't help but open her mouth. She did make the proposal, but she didn't think that the humans would agree to all the conditions. She didn't expect Fire Cloud, evil god, to suddenly want to pass this proposal, which made her a little suspicious. "What proposal?" Chi-Chi Kamaya asked, puzzled. Long Shirua said in a low voice, "It's a proposal to set up a special zone for the demon race." Chi-Chi Kamaya's eyes narrowed, but he didn't say anything. Although he was the leader of the Kuan division of the Xianyuan Palace and was a subordinate of the Xianyuan Palace, in theory, he should be separated from the other demon races in Kelowna. But in essence, he didn't forget his identity as a demon. "Mr. Fire Cloud, the Xianyuan Palace belongs to the Xianyuan Palace of the Xianyuan Palace." Chi-Chi Kamaya looked at the old man meaningfully. "Elder Turtle, please try your best to deal with it." Fire Cloud, evil god, cupped his hands and said, "The agency doesn't want the tragedy of Mount Tai to happen again." Chi-Chi Kamaya was silent for a while, then slowly said, "All right, but this time, I can only promise you in my personal capacity, it doesn't mean anything. Thank you, Elder Turtle. Fire Cloud, Evil God, cupped his hands again. At this time, Fire Cloud, Evil God waved his hand, and instantly two streams of light shot towards Shinryu and Chichikamaya. This is the admission ticket for tomorrow. Please keep it well. Each ticket can bring up to 3 people. Me too. Shinryu of Kelowna squinted his eyes again. Fire Cloud, Evil God smiled bitterly. Lord Long, our identities are sensitive. It's better not to get special treatment. We'll do what everyone else does. Shinryu was speechless. Then he looked at Chichikamaya and said, Old Turtle, if you're free tonight, you can stay in my hospital. I have something to talk to you about. That's great. Chichikamaya smiled. Lord Long's house is more comfortable. This old man also misses Miss Pinshin very much. Then I'll take my leave. Fire Cloud, Evil God waved his hand and said, I have something to deal with. I can't stay here for long. Money was a very useful ability. After paying several times the price, Sensei and his team finally found a hotel that was willing to accept them. Yes, it was just an ordinary hotel, not a star hotel at all. The male assistant was quite dissatisfied. He didn't even understand why Sensei had to come to such a dangerous place for this scenic tour. In such a historical and huge country like Kelowna, there was a curfew in this city. Just thinking about it made him panic. When they left the airport, they almost couldn't get a car to pick them up. The hotel only provided 2 rooms. The male assistant naturally shared a room with Sensei. As for Natsuya Suzuki and the child, they shared another room. Sensei, that guy seems to have run out alone. The male assistant looked out of the corridor. This bodyguard can leave his employer at will. Is such a guy really suitable? Whether he's suitable or not, he's here. Sensei smiled faintly. You go take a shower first. I'll call Satsi to tell her we're safe. Miss Satsi. Got it. The male assistant nodded. Sensei saw the assistant had gone into the bathroom, so he smiled casually. Then he opened the curtain and looked out of the street. A figure appeared on the street at this time. It was Natsuya Suzuki who went out alone. Natsuya Suzuki seemed to have noticed something, suddenly looking back. He even greeted him. Sensei smiled faintly, then closed the curtain. This city really forbids everything, as the rumor says. Sensei slowly sat at the desk, thinking and muttering to himself. In this case, the record seems to be a bit troublesome. He took out an ordinary notebook and began to write something with his pen. Bastard. I can't even find a convenience store. What a shitty place. Natsuya Suzuki walked alone on the empty street. The curfew was already over, and some of the time, not only was there no one on the street, but all the shops were closed, which made Natsuya Suzuki very unhappy. He wanted to go out to buy some instant noodles and beer. Bro. Natsuya Suzuki suddenly shouted to a figure in front of him. It was rare to meet a passerby, so Natsuya Suzuki planned to ask him for directions. He didn't believe that no one would secretly open the door and make noise in such a big place. He was very clear about the deep-rooted bad habits of human beings. Hey bro, I'm calling you. However, the figure in front of him didn't seem to hear him, walking on his own. I'm angry. Natsuya Suzuki's irritable character came online, directly walking behind him, putting one hand on his shoulder. I'm calling you, bro in a white suit. The man in the white suit paused for a moment, then slowly turned around. He met Natsuya Suzuki's eyes. What Natsuya Suzuki saw was a pair of eyes full of fighting intent. However, this pair of eyes that were filled with the aura of battle changed a little. They became extremely frightened. Don't come here! The man in a white suit instantly screamed, trembling all over, and then ran away as if his life depended on it. Natsuya Suzuki stood there dumbfounded, touching his face. Am I so scary? By the way, who is this man? He looks familiar. Forget it. I can't remember. Chapter 1948. In the end, Natsuya Suzuki still couldn't find a convenience store that dared to open secretly, but he found a vending machine. It was like finding a treasure. Natsuya Suzuki immediately ran to the vending machine. Then, a tragedy happened. This was a vending machine that scanned the QR code to pay. He didn't have the corresponding payment software on his mobile phone. nor did he have the corresponding account. Bastard! Her entire face was pressed against the glass cabinet of the vending machine. She pounded the machine with all her might. Unexpectedly, the vending machine suddenly made a crackling sound. The electric current was flowing on the vending machine's body, and then passed through Natsuya Suzuki's arm to his whole body, making his hair look like a noble. "Who come out?" Natsuya Suzuki, who was electrified, suddenly frowned. His neck crooked and made a cracking sound. At the same time, he pinched his finger bones. "I'm going to kill you." If he wanted to kill someone, it would be useless even if Jesus came. "You look quite spirited." "Jean, sure. It's you." "Madam. Madam Butler." Under the dim street lamp, Miss Maid's smile seemed to be covered with a soft golden light, which made her look very warm. "Jean, sure. Are you finally going to kill me?" Miss Servant Girl squinted her eyes and smiled. Natsuya Suzuki was still pinching his finger bones. He didn't pay attention and almost broke them. If he killed her, he would be the one who would be killed. He swallowed and shuddered. He immediately touched the back of his head and laughed. "Madam Butler, what a coincidence. It's so late. Are you out for a walk?" "I'm here for you, Jean, sure." Miss Maid said indifferently. "For me?" Natsuya Suzuki was stunned and immediately thought of something. He couldn't help opening his mouth. "Could it be?" Miss Maid chuckled and said, "You've been awake for so long. Don't you want to meet your new master?" "Sure enough." Natsuya Suzuki fixed his eyes. Natsuya Suzuki finally met his new boss in a tidy and clean suite of a hotel that had a bird's-eye view of half of the city. This was more than half a year late. A circle of black light appeared on the carpet, and then Miss Maid and Natsuya Suzuki appeared in the circle. "Master, Jean sure is here." While listening to Miss Maid's voice, Natsuya Suzuki was also sizing up his new boss. Didn't he guess what his new boss looked like before coming here? That was obviously impossible. "He's a new master?" Natsuya Suzuki opened his mouth subconsciously, and then whispered, "He's surprisingly young." However, the necessary etiquette couldn't be lacking. This was not only because of the servant girl's oppressive blue eyes, but also because of the restriction in the depths of the black soul envoy's soul. The shackles of submission and loyalty that could never be broken. He knelt on the ground with one knee on the ground and lowered his head and restrained his ferocious appearance. He couldn't squeeze out a smile and could only force himself to maintain a slightly serious look. "Hansher Sakamoto, I'm here to meet the new boss." It was quiet. Only the sound of pages being turned could be heard from time to time. Before this, Boss Luo was reading a thick black manuscript in his hand. It was too quiet. For Natsuya Suzuki. Hansher Sakamoto, who didn't like to be quiet, it seemed to be more uncomfortable. He couldn't help but raise his head slightly, looking at Miss Maid beside him. However, Miss Maid didn't look sideways and just stood there quietly. But Miss Maid quickly responded to Hansher Sakamoto's small movements. Her blue eyes moved slightly. Hansher Sakamoto instantly lowered his head and thought that this black soul chief was getting more and more terrifying. "I'm looking at your previous work content." At this time, Boss Luo suddenly said, "I happened to see some interesting content." Hansher Sakamoto raised his head subconsciously, but he saw that the new boss had already looked at him and raised the black manuscript in his hand. "This is your previous work record." Boss Luo smiled casually. "I'm sorry, I should have read it earlier. But you came here suddenly tonight, so I could only read it temporarily. You won't blame me for being perfunctory, right?" "Actually, it doesn't matter if you don't read it." Hansher Sakamoto thought for a while and said, "Anyway, I've never been an outstanding employee, and my performance just barely passed each time. It's very simple. I only know how to fight, scare people, and collect bad debts, unlike other black souls who can tempt people and play with people's hearts." He was about to stand up with his knees just off the ground, but Miss Maid's blue eyes moved to him again. Hansher Sakamoto was so scared that his knees instantly hit the floor again. "When you see me in the future, be more casual." Boss Luo waved his hand, "Get up first." Hansher Sakamoto glanced at Miss Maid uneasily, only to hear Miss Maid say expressionlessly, "Kinshur, are you not going to obey the master's order?" Are you too good at this combination of punches? Hansher Sakamoto muttered in his heart and felt uncomfortable all over, but finally stood up straight. At this time, Boss Luo suddenly closed the black manuscript in his hand. Hansher Sakamoto was startled and asked curiously, "You don't want to read it? Didn't you say that it doesn't matter if I don't read it?" Boss Luo smiled slightly. "I don't want to read it, and I don't want to read it in the future." Then, under Hansher Sakamoto's astonished gaze, the black manuscript in Boss Luo's hand was instantly burned. And finally, not even ashes were left. It recorded all his actions and gains ever since he became a Black Soul envoy. It was like a report card, the proof of Black Soul. "You!" Hansher Sakamoto instantly rushed forward. "What are you doing?" However, just as he took a step forward, a rolled-up bannerman was instantly inserted in front of Hansher Sakamoto, blocking his way. The appearance of the bannerman was like a basin of cold water, which made Hansher Sakamoto calm down instantly. This was clearly the exclusive weapon of the general manager, and she would not take it out easily. Once she took out the bannerman, it meant that she would kill even Black Soul to the extent that they could not be resurrected through the Ark of the Covenant. "I heard from you, Yi, that you're very special," Boss Luo said calmly. "As a Black Soul, if you're angry, even the shop owner will resist. It seems that it's true. But in the end, it's just a waste of effort." Hansher Sakamoto shrugged, but looked at the bannerman in front of him with fear. "It's futile no matter how I resist. Anyway, I'm like this. I can't do the work of seducing customers, and I can't do it well. I can only collect debts for the shop." To put nicely, he was a debt collector. In fact, he was just a high-level fighter. "If you don't like me, you can throw me aside, but don't send me back to the Ark of the Covenant. If you do, I'd rather you erase me directly." "Do you know why I burned your previous work records?" Boss Luo suddenly asked. "Isn't it because it's too lousy?" Hansher Sakamoto was startled. Boss Luo shook his head. "I heard from you, Yi, that you've used up all your accumulated earnings. That is to say, for the current you, it's equivalent to starting from scratch. Since you're starting from scratch, the previous records are naturally useless. Those are things that I've never experienced." A new blank black manuscript slowly formed in Boss Luo's palm, then flew to Hansher Sakamoto. Boss Luo smiled. "From now on, you and I will rewrite your future results. A new beginning. Treat it as a new personnel and style. Please continue to serve the shop in the future. Your work will be the same as before. There won't be any changes." Boss Luo said casually, "When you don't have work to do, you can do whatever you want, of course, under the premise that the shop rules allow it." "Are you serious?" Hansher Sakamoto said hurriedly. Boss Luo only gave Hansher Sakamoto a meaningful smile before disappearing from his sight, leaving this place. But Miss Servant Girl was still there. "It's time. Master wants to sleep." Miss Servant Girl continued. "Master goes to bed on time every night. If you encounter any problems in the future, don't disturb Master when he's asleep. Just tell me." Hansher Sakamoto held the new black manuscript unnaturally. He frowned and scratched his head, saying, "This is our new master?" As you can see, Hansher Sakamoto's expression relaxed. He thought for a while and said, "Then, what should I do next? Didn't you hear Master's words?" Miss Maid said indifferently, "When there are no special instructions, you can act freely according to your own will. Now, you can act freely and you don't need to report. Master will know everything you do, whether you report it or not." Hansher Sakamoto shrugged indifferently. Black Souls had no secrets in front of the shop owner. The only difference was that the shop owner knew everything. "By the way, what are you going to do with that kid?" Miss Servant Girl asked coldly. Hansher Sakamoto thought for a while and said, "I'm going to find a chance to throw that kid away. It's too troublesome. Don't you think it's a pity?" Miss Servant Girl said with a smile. "After all, you emptied all your savings to save the kid. What else can I do?" Hansher Sakamoto shook his head and said, "I can't turn this kid into a Black Soul and collect the debt with me, right? It sounds like a good idea." "You?" Hansher Sakamoto frowned and said, "Are you serious? I want to ask you." Miss Servant Girl said indifferently, "Ask yourself. Why do you keep this kid with you? If you want to throw him away, you always have the chance to do so. Hunter Sakamoto remained silent. Let's call a day. Miss Maid immediately smiled and said, there's one more thing. The city's ban was set up by Master. Although the ban has no effect on Onyx Soul, you have to think clearly about why Master wants to ban this city. For example, even if it's just breaking a vending machine, it will also deduct performance. Hunter Sakamoto's heart skipped a beat. What should come will come. It's her. Sure enough, she didn't replace him. Miss Yi, the great demon king who will deduct performance. Wait, I also have a question. Hunter Sakamoto suddenly asked before Miss Servant Girl left. What's the question? The former shop owner, the ex. Do you have any news about him? Hunter Sakamoto asked hesitantly. I mean, he suddenly handed over the shop without doing anything or saying anything. Miss Servant Girl said abruptly, perhaps you can inquire about this. After all, Master has said that you're free to move most of the time. Hunter Sakamoto said with a wry smile, How can I find him? I'm not good at finding people. Besides, even if I find him, what can I do? The shop has changed hands. Perhaps the old shop owner has a way to get it back. Kintaro. Miss Servant Girl called out this name abruptly. WH what? Miss Servant Girl reached out her hand and slowly grasped the holy flag in front of her. I'll only say it this time. From now on, I only have this current master. Do you understand? At this moment, the entire holy flag was burning with raging black flames. I'm just saying, you don't have to show me the face of the Dragon Witch, do you? Hunter Sakamoto broke out in a cold sweat. Only those Black Soul envoys who had seen her face would know why the head servant girl was able to suppress so many arrogant Black Soul envoys. No matter what, obeying the shop owner is ingrained in my nature. Even if I resisted, I would only be asking for trouble. You should know this better than me, Hunter Sakamoto said warily. The flag gun was gone. The invisible boulder in Hunter Sakamoto's heart also disappeared. Remember my words, Miss Servant Girl said calmly. Don't give me a reason to turn off the lights. Miss Servant Girl also disappeared, and Hunter Sakamoto sat on the ground, paralyzed. He touched the cold sweat on his forehead and muttered to himself. Old master. The X isn't scary at all. Even when he's in a bad mood, he can only destroy 7 worlds. But how can he be compared to you? You're the witch who destroyed 1,000 worlds. Destroyed 1,000 worlds. She stood alone on the roof of the building that looked up at the sky. Her deep eyes seemed to be able to see through the dark night. She did, but it wasn't something worth denying. When heaven personally sent her to the shop as a bargaining chip, when her memories were sealed, only the endless resentment of being abandoned and betrayed remained in the depths of her heart. In the beginning, she was just an emotionless puppet in the shop. Madness and slaughter. In the end, even the resentment in the depths of her soul gradually calmed down and was sealed in the body of this puppet. For more than 300 years, until she met him, she was just a puppet sitting motionless in the lobby of the shop every night. What breakfast should I prepare for Master tomorrow? The current her, even if she was only by his side as a personal chef, was far more blissful than the emptiness accumulated by destroying 1,000 worlds. Hashtag PS1. Thank you for Drunken Chun Y1FA for the accumulated cuteness. PS2. It seems like I can only be sandwiched between the 2 bosses. Equals PS3. 0/3 PS4. As usual. Chapter 1949. At the end of the dark labyrinth filled with the smell of blood and corpses, a door carved with many ferocious and distorted faces stood in front of them. The Allied Army. This was an Allied army that included the most outstanding young generation and elites of the entire Europa continent. There were also dozens of famous powerhouses leading the Allied army. The Allied army should have been the most powerful force in the world, invincible. However, with just this little bit, we've reached here. Lord Farrell, I can still fight. We've reached here, the last door. Go in, the final battle. The huge door was slowly pushed open by the crowd. In an instant, it was as if the gospel of heaven had been reversed. This was a whisper from hell. In an instant, they came to an absolutely cold room. In front of them was a staircase that led to the top, and above the staircase, there were two huge thrones. A male and a female abyss devil were sitting on the two thrones at this moment. Finally, you've reached this place. I have to praise you. You've really worked hard, heroes of the mortal world. Eleanor, what the hell are you writing? Why are there so many? I'm not reading anymore. An impatient voice sounded. The fierce-looking man on the throne suddenly stood up, rubbed his hands, and threw out a ball of paper. He picked his ears and said directly, "Only you trash are left. Hurry up and come over. I'll call it a day after I'm done beating you up." Demon, well, definitely take back those precious things from your hands. Shouting impassioned words, the wounded heroes rushed to the throne on the stairs. Even though they were wounded, they had exceeded their limits when they attacked this demon's lair. In the trial of life and death, they had released all their potential. However, the man on the throne just tilted his head, stretched out his hand, and took out a single-edged axe. Then, he casually walked down from the throne. With one swing of the axe, he chopped away a ray of hope as easily as chopping a motionless scarecrow. Too weak. How'd you fight your way here? The guys in front all went easy on you, right? They definitely went easy on you. You're not bad. You blocked 10% of my strength. I'll reward you with 20% of my strength. Take it, no thanks. Hey, don't turn around. Why are you running? On the stairs leading to the throne, blood flowed like a river. The blood spread down step by step. The male demon holding the single-edged axe seemed to be tired of this kind of operation and suddenly raised the axe in his hand. Let me have some fun. This level of self-destruction isn't even enough to scratch an itch. The void slashed down. Outside the city, in a village. Two completely different screams rang out at the same time. One of the screams belonged to a homeless man, while the other came from a thin man in a white suit. The homeless man was still holding a bag of bottles in his hand. At this time, he was so scared that he fell to the ground. He just wanted to go home. He built a house with paper boxes in the basement of the corridor, but he never thought that his home would be invaded by this crazy guy in front of him. He didn't know when this neurotic fellow had arrived. He was squatting in his house, curled up, and his face was pale, as if he was delirious. He was shivering and biting his fingers while talking to himself. His gaze was frightening. What do you want to do? This place is mine." The homeless man shouted in horror. The foreign man in the white suit suddenly shivered and rushed up like a wild beast. He threw the homeless man to the ground and pressed his hands on the homeless man's shoulders. He roared at the homeless man like a beast. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you. Come on. Come on. The homeless man couldn't understand what this crazy foreign man was saying, but he instinctively felt danger. Abnormal danger. He struggled in horror, but at this time, a severe pain came from his arm. His shoulder was directly crushed. The homeless man fainted instantly. The man in the white suit's ferocious and chaotic expression didn't fade away. "You're not my companion. You're a demon. You're a demon. You're a demon." He raised his fist. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid of you." Just at the moment when he was about to wave his fist, a golden light suddenly rushed out from the man's suit pocket. A palm-sized talisman slowly formed a seal and directly hit his forehead. In a split second, the homeless man who had raised his fist stopped. His fist suddenly dropped down, and then his whole body fell to the ground. That golden talisman slowly lost its radiance, but one of the cursed seals on it suddenly disappeared. The talisman slowly floated down. However, just when this talisman was about to float into the man's suit pocket, it seemed to be pulled by something and fiercely shot out. In the end, the talisman fell into a pure white and slender hand. It was a charming woman. "Your Honor, please take a look." Then, the charming woman handed the talisman to a middle-aged man with white hair and wearing a black Chinese tunic suit. The middle-aged man with white hair touched the talisman and muttered to himself for a moment. "This is a very ordinary calming talisman, but I'm afraid that it was made by an extremely skilled talisman master. Such craftsmanship, even in my era, is rarely seen." "Your Honor, This person has such a talisman. It seems that the middle-aged man muttered, Wolfgang, you go and take this person. When he wakes up, I'll have a good talk with him, although it's just a slight leak, but the bloody aura that this person exudes is unusual, even I. After saying that, a handsome young man wearing 10 gemstone rings beside the middle-aged man walked out expressionlessly, came to the side of the man in the white suit, and lifted him up. It's already very late. The middle-aged man looked around and said indifferently, Let's find a place outside the city to rest for a while. Your Honor, you don't plan to enter the city now? No hurry, the middle-aged man said indifferently. I heard that it's a forbidden place inside. It's better to be careful. The charming woman nodded. She knew that the reason why this man could survive was because of the divine martial arts he practiced. Once the divine martial arts were banned, it was hard to say what would happen. In that case, how about Charlotte and I go into the city first to inquire about the news? The charming woman suddenly asked. Okay. The middle-aged man nodded and said immediately, Be careful. There should be some properties in the city that belong to the aristocratic family in the capital. Use them more. Your servant knows. In the corridor, Mr. Che Tion's male assistant was about to go to the front desk of the hotel to get some drinks. This shabby hotel didn't even have room service. But soon, the male assistant met Natsuya Suzuki, who came back with a shopping bag and seemed to have a lot on his mind. The male assistant instantly shuddered and turned to face the wall. Then, his heart beat wildly, and he nervously listened to Natsuya Suzuki's footsteps. It seemed that he was thinking about something and didn't notice him at all. The male assistant couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief at this moment. Hey, what's the matter? Hearing the sudden shout, the male assistant instantly turned around with a shiver. How could there be such a ferocious guy? His teeth were clearly white and neat, but they gave people the feeling of a wolf's fangs, arranged like sawtooth, in his gaze. Am I very scary? Natsuya Suzuki frowned and asked. What, no, you're not scary at all, the male assistant said with a trembling voice. Natsuya Suzuki directly pressed one hand on the wall and leaned his whole face in front of the male assistant. He stared into his eyes and asked again, Really? Yes, really. Then why are you trembling? I want to go to the washroom. Can I? So it's like this. Natsuya Suzuki looked down and then suddenly jumped away. Bastard. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you need to pee? It's leaking. If it splashes on me, I'll kill you. So sorry. Sorry. The male assistant instantly bent down and apologized frantically. He felt that his pants were unknowingly wet. Okay, get away from me. Natsuya Suzuki pinched his nose and waved his hand in disgust. The male assistant hurriedly supported himself against the wall and ran away in horror, as if he had been granted amnesty, without caring about his image and his pants. He even tripped and fell on the way. Seeing this, Natsuya Suzuki shook his head and touched his chin. He looked at his reflection in the corridor window and frowned. Am I very scary? He tried to use 2 fingers to push his mouth into the shape of a smile. Natsuya Suzuki was speechless for a moment and then shook his head. His face was full of impatience as he walked toward his room. After a few steps, he stopped. He saw his employer, Mr. Seteda, standing outside the door and looking at him with a smile. What's the matter? Natsuya Suzuki stopped and asked expressionlessly. Most of our meals and accommodation are taken care of by him. Mr. Seteda said casually, It's very inconvenient if you're frightened. Natsuya Suzuki stretched out 2 fingers and forced a smile. I'm very friendly. Mr. Seteda smiled and then said coldly, You don't seem to be affected by this place, right? Natsuya Suzuki didn't say anything and just shrugged. Mr. Seteda said indifferently, Then I'm relieved. It proves that I didn't hire the wrong person. I'll leave my safety to you, Mr. Suzuki. Good night. Seeing that her employer had only said a few words and then returned to her room, Suzuki gave her a sidelong glance. Crazy. He then kicked open the door of his room and walked in. He saw the boy sitting on the bed, hugging his knees and watching TV. Why don't you turn on the light? Natsuya Suzuki frowned. Only the light from the TV cast a colorful glow on the boy's face. Why aren't you sleeping? Suzuki turned on the lights in the room and then turned it off. She picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. If you can't get up tomorrow, I'll leave you here and let the housekeeper pack you up and throw you into the trash can. I'll wait for you. Natsuya Suzuki opened his mouth and wanted to say something. But in the end, he didn't say anything and sat on the other bed. He didn't even take off his shoes. He just leaned on the bed and stared at the ceiling with empty eyes. The boy didn't make a fuss when the TV was off. He just turned around and hugged his knees, quietly watching Natsuya Suzuki. Aren't you sleepy? Natsuya Suzuki suddenly asked. Yes. He nodded. There's something in the bag. Eat it if you're hungry. Yes. He shook his head. Natsuya Suzuki shook his head. He remembered the conversation with the Demon King's maid before he came back. So he suddenly asked, Would you sell your soul? Yes. He was confused. Never mind. Natsuya Suzuki turned around and said indifferently, Go to sleep. I'm sleepy. After a while, the boy suddenly got up from the bed and came to Natsuya Suzuki. He pulled the quilt over him and then turned off the light. Then he got into the quilt and buried his face in Natsuya Suzuki's back, quietly curling his body. It's very hot, little brat. Natsuya Suzuki was angry and immediately lifted the quilt. Unexpectedly, the boy was able to hold on to the quilt with both hands and didn't fall out. Damn you, you're really talented. When it was late at night, they squeezed into the same bed and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, a lot of people suddenly came to the pet hospital, more than a dozen people. This made Ajuin quite dissatisfied, because these people directly took away his time alone with Miss Pinshian. Not only that, Miss Pinshian even had to prepare food for him in the middle of the night. That was not a big deal. However, old guy, let go of your dirty hand. The young man in black glared at him. Yes, it was this old man who was holding a crutch and carrying a tortoise shell. He took advantage of the time to grab Miss Pinshian's hand and didn't let go. Who are these two? Chichi Kamaya curiously looked at the young man in black with a pink bear apron and a teapot in his hand and asked curiously, New workers? No. The little butterfly monster quietly withdrew her hand. Mr. Ajuin and Miss Leia are staying here temporarily, just for one night. Kelowna's Shinryu suddenly added, They're leaving tomorrow. Oh. Chichi Kamaya opened his eyes a little and suddenly looked at the fat girl behind Ajuin. It was very strange. Although her figure was very obvious, she didn't seem to have much presence. She just hid in the corner, and the words "Don't look at her" seemed to be written all over her face. Suddenly, Chichi Kamaya stuck his crutch into the ground and then pulled it out. The sharp sword hidden in the crutch stabbed out instantly toward the fat girl. At the moment when the sword was about to stab Leia, Leia moved. With a clang, Chichi Kamaya's sword was directly blocked by Leia. After that, Chichi Kamaya directly withdrew his sword and retreated. The sharp sword was neatly put back into the crutch again. Little girl, you're good at swordsmanship. Chichi Kamaya stroked his beard and said with a smile, I have a prescription here that can detoxify and remove fat. Your achievements may not be below Miss Pinshian's in the future. The little butterfly monster blinked. Achievements? Grandpa Tortoise, what achievements? Chichi Kamaya was directly lifted and dragged out by Kelowna's Shinryu. #PS. 1/3. Chapter 1950. A scream came from the upper floor of the pet hospital. It was the kind of scream that could make people shrink their necks. Chichi Kamaya's scream. Grandpa Tortoise should be fine, right? The butterfly monster looked up at the ceiling and asked. Probably. Ghost Baby shrugged and then extended the plate in his hand expressionlessly. Is there anything else to eat? Right away. The butterfly monster in the pet hospital went to work. Chichi Kamaya sat on the sofa and took a hot egg. He wrapped in a towel and put it on his right eye socket. He said seriously, Lord Long, I have a prescription that can relieve the anger in the liver and relieve depression. I'll cook it for you later, okay? Didn't I teach you everything you know? Kelowna's Shinryu glared at him. What do you mean by a prescription that's suitable for menopausal women? Idiot, you don't know. As the saying goes, don't hold back. As a teacher, I like to hold back. This is the tradition of Kelowna. How can I forget my ancestors? Kelowna's Shinryu was about to hit him. Chichi Kamaya immediately hid behind the sofa. Longshore rubbed her forehead and said in a low voice, "I'm not in the mood to talk to you about this. Sit down. I have something to talk to you about. Who's in charge of the Qian division of the Xianyuan Palace?" Chichi Kamaya said slowly. Since Gongsun Shiyu's father was sent to the ice pool, the Qian division's affairs were temporarily handed over to Gongsun Wuzong. "Who are you talking about? Gongsun Wuzong?" Kelowna's Shinryu frowned. "The gloomy guy who hasn't been seen for decades and always sends a pigeon to deliver a message? You can't say that." Chichi Kamaya smiled bitterly. "Wuzong has always been in charge of the law enforcement hall of the Xianyuan Palace. If he's easy to get along with, he won't be that intimidating." "What about the law enforcement hall? We can only do it without Lord Zong," Chichi Kamaya said helplessly. Kelowna's Shinryu immediately sized up Chichi Kamaya and asked curiously, "How are you doing?" "We are all doing this for the sake of the Xianyuan Palace." Lord Long's words. Chichi Kamaya said calmly, "This old man has never done anything to harm the Xianyuan Palace. What is there to fear? The Lord Long didn't call me up here just to ask about the chores in the palace, did he? No, I just want to pull you up and give you a good beating," Kelowna's Shinryu said sincerely. "I don't know why, but I just want to punch you when I see your old face." Chichi Kamaya said hesitantly, "This old man made a mistake. There is indeed something that I need you to do." Long Shirua changed the topic. Chichi Kamaya couldn't help but be stunned. "Think of a way to hand this thing over to that wretched girl." Long Shirua took out a jade scroll and threw it in front of Chichi Kamaya. "Don't tell me that you can't contact her. You can't fool me with your tricks. Then this old man will think of a way." Chichi Kamaya smiled bitterly, then thought for a while and said, "Tomorrow, will Lord Long enter alone or with us? Let's enter separately." Kelowna's Shinryu also thought for a while and said, "So that when the time comes, the people from the Dao sect and the monster clan will gossip and think nonsense. Then this old man will take his leave." Chichi Kamaya nodded, took the jade scroll, and walked slowly out of the door with his walking stick. Before he left, he turned back and said, "Are you sure you don't want to use my secret prescription? Everyone in the Xianyuan Palace is using this prescription when the time comes. The effect is quite good." He picked up the mouse and threw it at him. Kelowna's Shinryu said angrily, "Go away." "Okay." Song Dynasty Hotel. It was late at night. It was supposed to be the time to rest and replenish energy, but someone woke up at this time. Song Ying. At this moment, her stomach felt like it was being overturned. Song family's granddaughter looked for her phone uncomfortably and looked at the time. It was past 1 o'clock in the morning. Her memory began to clear little by little. She was provoked by Zhong Luoyue and called out. Then she drank until she blacked out. It should be the bodyguard who sent her back, but she didn't expect to be drunk until now. Now, her head was still aching. It couldn't be. When did Zhong Luoyue, this coquettish fox, become so good at drinking? She was the one who drank her to death every time at the school ball. Song family and Zhong Luoyue were two completely different styles. If Zhong Luoyue was the legitimate eldest daughter of an aristocratic family, then Song Ying, who grew up in a village where Song family trained their subordinates, was more like someone who was soaked in a wine jar. When she was studying, Zhong Luoyue couldn't beat her in drinking even once. "I can't." The more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable her stomach felt. Song Ying had no choice but to get up in a sorry state. She had yet to purchase a property in this place and had been living in a large suite on the upper floor of the Song Dynasty Hotel. There were 2 bodyguards outside the door, 1 male and 1 female, who were selected from Song family's village. Naturally, they were more loyal than the bodyguards hired outside. "Miss, you're awake. I asked someone to prepare some hangover soup. It's in the next room. Shall I get it for you?" The female bodyguard said quickly. "Not now. I want to feel the wind." Song Ying shook her head. She staggered to the end of the floor where there was an open-air platform. There was a swimming pool in the air and a courtyard. However, during this period of time, Song Dynasty Hotel only received Taoist guests, and it wasn't open to the public. Those masters liked to discuss life events and the harmony of yin and yang with young models in their rooms. Naturally, They didn't like these entertainment facilities. The two bodyguards didn't follow her in, but just stood outside and watched from a distance, because Song Ying told them that she wanted to be alone for a while. This was Song Dynasty Hotel, and every floor had strict security, from the bellboy to the bellboy. They were very confident in their security, so they didn't say anything. "I'll get a glass of water for Miss. You watch first," the female bodyguard suddenly said at this time. But after a while, the male bodyguard heard footsteps. He turned his head and found that it was a cleaner who was pushing a tool cart and walking over. "Wait, what are you doing?" The male bodyguard frowned and asked. The cleaner said, "I'm here to clean the courtyard." "You're here to clean the courtyard now?" The male bodyguard said doubtfully. "Go back and come back later. You're not allowed to go in now." "Got it." The cleaner nodded quickly, lowering her head and holding the tool cart to turn around. "Wait a minute." The male bodyguard suddenly put his hand on the cleaner's shoulder. "What's your work number? When did you work here? Why haven't I seen you before?" The cleaner said quickly, "It's not strange that you haven't seen low-level workers like us before. If there's nothing else, I'll go to clean the other floors." The male bodyguard said coldly, "You're wrong. I remember the information of all the workers in the hotel, even the bellboy's birthday. But I haven't seen you before. Who are you?" Exerting strength in his 5 fingers, the male bodyguard's palm had already clamped down on the cleaner's shoulder. At the same time, a black handgun was pressed against the cleaner's head. He pressed the cleaner against the wall, saying in a deep voice, "Speak. How did you get in here? Who sent you here?" "I am." The cleaner looked panicked. But right at that moment, the cleaner's shoulder that was firmly grabbed was suddenly released. He even pressed his palm against the male bodyguard's chest at lightning speed and directly pushed him away. The male bodyguard's heart was suddenly hit, and he lost consciousness instantly. He fell to the ground in shock. "You should be lucky. I can only use so much strength, otherwise," the cleaner chuckled at this time, then immediately narrowed his eyes. He slowly pushed the tool cart into the open-air courtyard. She leaned against the glass wall, and the summer night breeze was not particularly cool. Song Ying's face was flushed, and she pressed her hand on her chest, feeling a surge of emotions from time to time. At this time, her thoughts would run wild, or her thoughts were particularly easy to be out of her control. Miss Song subconsciously took out her cell phone, and her fingers swiped aimlessly on the contact list, names one by one. Her fingers stopped as she swiped back. Just like the 3 sevens on a lucky plane, the name that upset Miss Song stopped at the center of the screen. Why? Why should I take the initiative to find it? Go to hell. The capriciousness of the rich seemed to be reflected at this moment. Miss Song waved her arm, intending to throw the cell phone out directly. Unexpectedly, Song Ying's arm was directly caught at this moment. "Miss, this thing will hurt passers-by if you throw it out. You'd better be careful." Song Ying frowned, and she subconsciously struggled a few times, but found that she couldn't get out of the other's hand. Who are you?" "The cleaner." "Do you know who I am?" "Let go of me." Her limbs were weak. "Of course I know who you are." The cleaner smiled. "It's because I know who you are that I'm here. Miss Song, please come with me. There are some things I want to confirm with you." "Go." "Where to?" Song Ying, who was still a little dizzy, asked subconsciously. "You'll know when you get there," the cleaner said softly. "I warn you, let go of me, or you'll regret it. Let go of me. I'm afraid the bodyguards outside can't protect you, Miss Song." The cleaner smiled faintly. "Just come with me." With this, the cleaner pulled Song Ying more forcefully. Then, something unforgettable happened to the cleaner. He seemed to see a rainbow. A colorful rainbow spurted out from Song Ying's mouth, directly sprayed on his face, body, and all over his body. Perhaps the cleaner had never experienced such a thing, so he was dumbfounded. This was truly something that he had never experienced in his entire life. I told you, you'll regret it." Song Ying painfully covered her mouth at this time, but her stomach turned over again, and her hand couldn't cover it anymore. Seeing that the second rainbow was about to erupt, the cleaner suddenly shuddered, retreating with disgust and fear, and had to let go of his hand that was holding Song Ying. How unlucky he was! The cleaner's eyes were filled with anger, and even a trace of killing intent. He directly snorted and directly grabbed Song Ying without saying anything. Bang! However, at this time, a sound was heard. It was the sound of a bullet being shot. At the entrance of the courtyard, the female bodyguard who went to pour water had returned. The bullet directly shot through the cleaner's palm at this moment, and the impact even directly knocked his arm away. The cleaner snorted, grasping the wrist of his injured hand, and blood was dripping down from his fingers to the floor. Bang, bang, bang. However, the female bodyguard didn't even give the cleaner any time to react and spat out bullets one after another. The cleaner glanced at Song Ying with a gloomy look, then snorted lightly, and directly jumped over the glass wall, as if jumping down from the high-rise. The female bodyguard hurriedly rushed up, and when she arrived and stuck her head out of the wall, she saw that the cleaner had escaped to the hanging courtyard on the lower floor. This was a high-rise with a staircase design, and each floor had the same facilities. He escaped quite fast. The female bodyguard snorted and immediately took out the walkie-talkie. While supporting the unsteady Song Ying, she said in a deep voice, "All floors are blocked. There is an intruder who intends to assassinate Miss Song." This wasn't something that could be easily overlooked or ignored. Someone intended to assassinate Miss Song. This was a big taboo for the Song family. Since the young Song Ying witnessed her parents being killed because they sat in the car that was tampered with by the enemy, Master Song was so mad that he directly wiped out the enemy's family. Since then, the Song family was particularly sensitive to this kind of assassination. The degree of sensitivity could even make the Song family directly turn hostile, no matter who the target was. "You haven't finished your homework today. Where are you going?" In the room, Princess Chuyang, who was sitting in a white exercise suit, slowly opened her eyes. Before this, Song Haoran was shirtless with his left hand behind his back and only supported his body with the thumb of his right hand. It had been like this all the time. He was sweating profusely. However, at this time, he directly stood up, and without looking at Princess Chuyang, he said indifferently, "Murder. You haven't finished your homework today, so you're not allowed to go out." Princess Chuyang said indifferently, "It's just an assassin. There's no need for you." He tilted his head and looked at Princess Chuyang from the corner of his eyes. "Remember, never stop the people of the Song family from taking revenge." Song Haoran had already pushed open the door and walked out, bringing with him a terrifying murderous aura. Princess Chuyang slowly sighed. As the princess of that dynasty, the princess of that emperor, she didn't expect to be scared off by Song Haoran's gaze. He really is a demon star in troubled times. Hashtag, 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 hashtag PS. As usual. Chapter 1951. However, the sudden appearance of this assassin cleaner had indeed exceeded the expectations of the Song family guards. Even though they had promptly sealed off every floor, they were still unable to capture the assassin cleaner. Not only were they unable to capture him, the guards on 3 floors had already been knocked down along the way. The surveillance cameras had even lost track of the cleaner. Fortunately, there were no other guests in the Song Dynasty Hotel at this time. Otherwise, it would have caused a commotion. At this moment, in a certain floor's cleaning room, he was currently frowning as he cleaned the stains on his body. Perhaps no one would have thought that he would actually fail because of such a thing. The last time I was suddenly hit by a car, but this time, he could not help but frown. Next time, if anyone tells me that dimensional observers are born orphans and are prone to misfortune, the more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable he felt. He had actually been vomited on by a woman. The stench of alcohol was impossible to wash away. Oomph. He snorted coldly and casually changed into a new cleaner's uniform before pushing open the door and walking out. Unexpectedly, at this moment, a barefooted youth wearing a pair of loose trousers was standing in the corridor. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Looks like you're very confident in yourself." He laughed lightly and slowly walked out. The other bodyguards are not fully armed, but at least a few of them are together. Song Haoran walked over with an expressionless face. The assassin cleaner shook his head and immediately reached out with his hand. In his hand was a black pistol. This was probably taken from the Song family guards on the way out. The power of this toy is not bad. At this moment, the assassin cleaner narrowed his eyes. He had almost never used such a thing, but with his ability and control of his body, to accurately shoot was just a thought away. The trigger was pulled. However, unexpectedly, no gunshot rang out. The assassin cleaner subconsciously frowned and had no choice but to throw away the pistol he had taken. There were no more bullets. Your luck is pretty good. He looked at the approaching Song Howren and said indifferently. It's more than just good. Song Howren said indifferently. My Song family has always had strong luck. Our luck dares to make our enemies despair. The killer cleaner chuckled. I've seen countless lucky people, but this kind of people always die faster because they use up all the luck they should have in their life very quickly. Since I can't catch Song Ying tonight, it seems to be a good idea to catch you. At least I can use you to exchange for someone else. After he finished speaking, he lowered his body and, with a very strange pace, which was slow yet fast, he quickly attacked Song Howren. Song Howren did not move at all. He did not even assume the stance of a martial artist. He just quietly watched the killer cleaner charge at him. In the blink of an eye, a strong light passed through the corridor window and directly shot in. Along with the appearance of a strong light, there was even the sound of a propeller roaring. At this moment, the killer cleaner narrowed his eyes and frowned subconsciously. He recognized the thing outside the window of the Song Dynasty Hotel. It was a helicopter. Not only a helicopter, but 4 gunmen were standing in the open hatch of the helicopter, and one of them even set up a machine gun. You? He suddenly became furious. Do you know what revenge is? Song Howren showed a cold-blooded smile on his face. The so-called revenge, of course, should be unscrupulous, regardless of anything. The revenge should be paid back 1,000 times. Strafe. Bang, 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 bang. A machine gun and 3 rifles. Crazily, he shot the outer wall of the hotel and the glass windows like a torrent. They did not care about the damage they caused. They only knew that the gunshots were especially loud like the firecrackers of the new year. It was not until the outer wall of this floor was shot into a hornet's nest and glass fragments covered the ground that the shooting stopped. Song Howren walked slowly in the smoke and stepped on the glass fragments barefoot, as if he did not feel anything. He came to the front of a man covered in blood. It was the killer cleaner. At this moment, he had not fallen down, but his body was full of holes. Not only did you not fall down, but you can also endure the pain. It seems that you are also a transcendent. Song Howren said indifferently. Well, I can also play with you. I didn't intend to interrogate you, but you gave me this opportunity, and I will cherish it. At this time, a ball was directly shot from the helicopter outside the wall. The ball instantly exploded into a big white net and directly wrapped the killer cleaner who was covered in blood. Then, several floor guards rushed out from the back and pressed the cleaner killer to the ground. This bloody assassin still had an astonishing amount of strength even now, and the guards couldn't even suppress him with their strength. Song Howren snorted coldly and directly took 2 high-voltage electric batons and inserted them into the guy's chest. Like an electric fish, the killer cleaner trembled from head to toe, but it took him a full 2 minutes to pass out from the electric shock. Master, how should we deal with this guy? Song Howren glanced coldly at the guard. How should we deal with someone who wants to assassinate Xiao Ying? It has always been this way. Do you need to ask me? But this might be a transcendent. I am afraid. If he wants to attack my Song family, I will kill even transcendent. Good. I am also worried that I have not cut off the hands and feet of a transcendent. Now is the chance. A bloodthirsty look flashed in the guard's eyes. How could he forget that the Song family's village had always produced mercenaries who were active in the modern battlefield? Tidy up the things here, Song Howren waved his hand. I will go take a look at Xiao Ying, and then I will personally interrogate this guy. Master, what about the Dao sect and the administration? I will deal with them. Secretary Song, I don't remember that in your report there is a mention of carrying these powerful weapons. You seem to have gone too far, right? In a guest room of the hotel, Song Howren was calmly looking at the 2 agents from the administration who had come after hearing the news. The area where the accident happened was not where the administration was stationed. The Song Dynasty Hotel occupied a rather large area. The group of seniors from the Tao Sect Association were arranged to stay in a quieter area further inside. However, it was impossible for there to be no reaction at all when something happened, especially when Song Howard had actually used such an exaggerated level of modern weapons. It was one thing for them to react, but they did not expect Song Howard to settle the matter so quickly. These weapons are the private property of the Tao Sect Association, Song Howard calmly said. As the secretary of the association, I have the responsibility to protect the safety of the seniors. But this attack does not seem to be directed at the experts of the association, right, Secretary Song? Perhaps the attacker just went to the wrong place. Song Howard casually said, who knows? Moreover, I have already obeyed the instructions of the administration and replaced the guards at the entrance with your people. However, someone still managed to sneak in, right? If you can rely on me, perhaps the person lying on the ground now is me. Song Howard, remember, I represent the Tao Association. Song Howard expressionlessly said, if you really want to hold me accountable, please send someone who is qualified. It's getting late. Please leave. We can leave, and we can talk about you using heavy weapons later. However, I hope you can hand over the assassin you have caught. Of course, I'll hand the assassin over to you tomorrow. Song Howard smiled. Tomorrow before sunrise. Song Howard, how dare you? I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. The young master of the Song family chuckled and sized up the agent in front of him. Suddenly, he said, since you know who I am, you should know what I have in my hands. If I remember correctly, you should be from the primordial chaos unity Chi Dao sect, right? Your sect still owes me a favor. Do you want me to use it now? You. Arrogant, despotic, insufferably arrogant. Simply unreasonable. He flung his sleeves and left. The remaining agent could only smile bitterly and say, Secretary Song, I hope you can keep your word and hand over the attacker before sunrise. He could not be firm in front of Song Howard. Originally, the agents sent by the administration in Kelowna to guard the Song Howard Hotel were mostly disciple from the sects of the Tao Association. Just him, an elder from his sect, was currently staying in the Song Howard Hotel. On one hand, there were the rules of the administration, and on the other hand, there were the elders of his sect. He would only be in a difficult position if he insisted on going against them. How could there be such a guy who had such heaven-defying luck and made most of the Tao demons in Kelowna owe him a favor for saving their lives? Did this guy save the Milky Way in his previous life? When the time comes, I'll naturally hand him over with both hands. However, this matter, especially the weapons that you secretly brought, I'll still report it. I hope you can understand that I'm just following the rules. Of course, I'll also hand over the weapons that I've used this time. All right. He knew that Song Howard was being completely perfunctory. Even if he handed over the weapons this time, with the Song family's wealth, how could they not have more? He could not be bothered to stay here any longer. After casually exchanging some pleasantries, he directly left. There were still a few more hours before the summit began. If there was another attack at this time, he would not be able to escape punishment. He had to quickly return to the area where the elders of the Tao Association were staying and increase the security. How's little Ing? Song Howard came to the door of Song Ying's room. Miss Ing should be frightened. Furthermore, she's still in a drunken state and fell asleep. Perhaps she won't have any recollection of what just happened after she wakes up. That's for the best. Song Howard nodded. He walked into the room and personally covered Song Ying with a blanket. After accompanying her for a while, he walked out and said calmly, from now on, get 3 more snipers. I want the snipers' sights to scan everyone around Little Ing. I'll arrange it immediately. Where's that guy? He's already been sent to the basement. 3 hours is enough. His consciousness was slowly recovering. However, this was definitely not a good feeling. The cleaner killer. He slowly raised his head. What entered his eyes was a silver steel table. At this moment, other than a bloody electric saw on the table, there were 2 palms and 2 feet. His hands and his feet. His gaze instantly constricted. Incomparable madness and violence could be seen in his eyes. A mere mortal actually dared to. You can wake up so soon? I was planning to wake you up. He looked toward the source of the sound. It was that arrogant young man. At this moment, Song Howren simply put on a white shirt and sat beside the steel table calmly. He even picked up a broken palm on the table. Recently, I've been practicing martial arts with others, martial arts and such. Song Howren said calmly. I've seen more. These hands look like a pair of very powerful palms. You won't get anything from me. He sneered, but I'll remember your appearance. Actually, I don't intend to ask. Song Howren casually threw the broken palm into a furnace and stood up. He directly walked in front of the killer and looked at him coldly. A person who can be indifferent after waking up and seeing his own broken hands and feet. This is the first time I've seen such a person. If such a person doesn't open his mouth, then he really doesn't intend to open his mouth. Therefore, I don't intend to waste my time. He sneered and laughed loudly. I said, I'll remember your appearance. Do as you wish. Song Howren slowly placed a silver pistol on the killer's forehead. I know you're a transcendent. The person who ordered you is also a transcendent. But so what? I can never leave this city for the rest of my life. If you have the ability, then come in. I have more than 100 ways to kill you. If you want revenge, then come. Bang! Song Howren didn't even give the killer time to reply. He directly fired the gun, and the bullet instantly entered the killer's skull. But it wasn't over yet. Song Howren then fired another shot at the left side of the man's chest, followed by another shot at the right side of the man's chest. Finally, he fired another shot at the man's nose. In the end, the killer directly fell to the ground. His eyes didn't close. Song Howren said indifferently, then just watch. I don't care if you die with your eyes open. His subordinate hurriedly came forward and asked hesitantly, Young master, you said you would hand him over to the agency. Now he's dead? I didn't say I would hand him over alive. Song Howren said indifferently. This guy must be a transcendent. After we let out all the blood in his body, then hand him over to the agency. If he can still live like this, then I'll just admit that I'm unlucky. All right, this thing was found on his body. At this time, the subordinate handed a plate that was neither gold nor jade to Song Howren. Holding this plate, Song Howren said in surprise, What is this? Is this the killer's identity card or something? I don't know. The subordinate shook his head. This was the only thing on his body. Since he carried it with him, it should be something very important. I'll check later and see if there are any killer organizations in the underground world that use this kind of plate as a symbol. Song Howren nodded and put this plate into his pocket. After asking someone to clean up the traces in the basement, he left alone. Finally, Song Howren returned to Princess Chuyong's room again. At this time, Princess Chuyong was still meditating and didn't ask about Song Howren's return. Young Master Song didn't say anything. After taking off his coat, he continued the unfinished exercise. There are less than 4 hours left before the meeting starts. Why don't you rest up now? Princess Chuyong said indifferently. Since there are still a few hours left, why don't I make use of it? Song Howren said with a chuckle. If I don't make myself the most powerful one, how can I face all the dangers that come my way? Then let's go to the corridor outside. Princess Chuyong said indifferently. The smell of your sweat is affecting me. Really? Young Master Song said with a mischievous smile. I thought it was the smell of a man. Did it intoxicate you, little Chuyong? Princess Chuyong suddenly stood up and left. Young Master Song chuckled and started a train alone. Soon, he was sweating profusely. Outside the Song Dynasty Hotel, on the roof of a tall building hundreds of meters away, a figure put down the binoculars. His face was gloomy. Could it be? How is it possible? As a transcendent being killed by a human in the subworld was too much. No, maybe this place can do it. He didn't even know if a transcendent being's soul could be completely preserved in this strange city of prohibition. Just as he was pondering, he felt a sense of danger, as if he was being stared at by something. His body reacted instinctively, and he instantly crouched down. With a bang, a small hole appeared in a water tank on the roof, and water flowed out instantly. A feeling of powerlessness arose spontaneously. He was startled. The danger level of this city of prohibition increased by several levels. This was obviously the sniper attack from the Song Dynasty Hotel. Maybe the sniper didn't know that he was here. He just happened to be looking around and happened to see this place. Under the continuous sniping, he crawled to the top of the stairs with great difficulty. This was a humiliation that he had never felt since he became famous. Damn it. The mission this time isn't a reward mission where I can easily earn contribution points. Before dawn, Luocio was awakened from his sleep by some soft voices. Walking out of the room, Boss Luo saw Ren Xiling, who was definitely not Ren Xiling, sitting in front of the table. Why did he say that it was definitely not Ren Xiling, who was definitely not Ren Xiling? Because in Boss Luo's memory, the number of times he saw Auntie run in a formal suit could be counted with one's fingers. She was wearing a dark black skirt, and her hair was tied up. At this time, Miss Maid was carefully putting on makeup for Auntie Run. Lizzie was dozing off at the side while sucking her fingers. From time to time, she would make a strange slurping sound. So early. Hey, did I wake you up? At this time, Auntie Run was worshipping Boss Luo with an apologetic look. I try not to talk, but we have to enter the venue in advance to prepare. But this hair can't be done well. Fortunately, Yu Yi is here. You helped me a lot. It's not a big deal. Miss Maid smiled slightly and seemed to enjoy the work at this time. You will be the most beautiful person in the venue today. I'm just doing a live interview, not attending a wedding. Really? Auntie Rin shook her head. If it weren't for the regulation to wear formal clothes, CK. Is this me? Looking at herself in the mirror brought by Miss Maid, Auntie Rin suddenly jumped up. She only felt that she seemed to have special effects at this time. Her whole face was glowing. Lizzie, who was awakened by the CK, suddenly widened her eyes. Sister Rin, you seem to be glowing. TSK. Auntie Rin was holding the mirror at this time and kept looking at herself. Miss Maid smiled slightly at this time and personally pinned a brooch on Auntie Rin's chest. Now it's perfect. This brooch is so beautiful. Auntie Rin's eyes lit up again. Is it a ruby? She had asked around many times and knew that this prospective daughter-in-law was a rich woman. Although she didn't know what was so good about her son that he could be kept by a rich woman, but such a considerate and beautiful prospective daughter-in-law. So be it. She was very open-minded about it. Of course not. Miss Maid said casually, it's just an ordinary red agate. It's a former collection. If you wear it, you will look more dignified. Okay, I won't drop it. I'll return it to you later. Auntie Rin nodded and didn't care too much. She looked at the time and directly pulled Lizzie up. Well, don't talk about it. Son, go back to sleep. We're going out now. Be careful on the road. Revelation 21:18. The wall is made of jasper, and the city is made of fine gold, like bright and clear glass. Revelation 21 verses 19 to 20. The foundation of the city wall is decorated with various gems. The first foundation is jasper, the second is sapphire, the third is green agate, the fourth is emerald, the fifth is red agate, the sixth is ruby, the seventh is yellow jade, the eighth is blue water jade, the ninth is red jade, the 10th is jade, the 11th is purple agate, and the 12th is purple crystal. Hashtag PS. 2/3. Chapter 1952. The sky was still a little darker than dawn, but the area outside the summit venue was brightly lit at this time. Even the entrances of every passage were already guarded by inspectors. The media from all over the country, who were preparing to enter the venue, were all lined up in the middle of the three aisles, waiting for a comprehensive inspection. It was crowded and long. What the hell? Why do we have to take off our clothes for inspection? In addition, there was even a blood test. Auntie Run had been in the industry for almost 10 years, but this was the first time she had encountered such a situation. Seeing that the inspector's attitude this time was tough, and there was no room for negotiation, Auntie Rin couldn't help but feel a little troubled. It wasn't because it was uncomfortable to take off her clothes for inspection. After all, the inspection area had to be separated between men and women. The key was that Auntie Rin's outfit was meticulously made by her future daughter-in-law. What if her hair was messed up and she couldn't tie it back? She was the oldest girl present today. What? Are you kidding me? You even need to take off your underwear. Do you think this is a full body checkup before you go to prison? Do we still have any civil rights? Miss, please cooperate. Otherwise, we can't let you in, the female inspector said expressionlessly. F*CK. That place of mine is so good. Other than myself, no one has seen or touched it for several years, and you're so lucky. Onirin frowned and spat. As expected of a married woman who had been a widow for a few years, Auntie Ren's standards were quite high. However, speaking of which, Lizzie, although the boss looks very handsome when he's tough, doesn't it reveal something? He hasn't been seen or touched by anyone except himself for several years. Is it a tragedy? The one who spoke was Old Q, a photographer, a driver, and a tool man who loved reading pornography. When you receive your year-end bonus in the second half of the year, you've already lost it. Lizzie blinked her eyes. Can you not use this kind of perfect time? Thank you for a week's afternoon tea. Lizzie patted Old Q's shoulder. Good friend. This good friend is so expensive. Old Q laughed bitterly and shook his head. However, if the boss doesn't agree and we are in a deadlock, what should we do? Anyway, it doesn't matter to me. Why don't I go in and get ready? Unexpectedly, Lizzie lowered her head and groaned. I haven't been seen or touched for hundreds of years. I'm so embarrassed. It's difficult. Old Q opened his mouth and said unhappily, Only a few hundred years? Ever since I came out of my mother's womb, other than my mother, no other woman has ever touched me. Who do you think you are? So miserable. Lizzie suddenly raised her head. How pitiful. No wonder you look at yellow every day. These were the words of pity from Annie Run, who had retreated in defeat at some point in time. She even showed a caring expression and said softly, Old Q, I will scold you less in the future. You do as you see fit. Even if you really can't help it, don't go too far in the office. No, it's not like that. Was it not a tragedy match just now? Boss, listen to me. At this moment, a figure quietly walked away and interrupted Old Q's words. The person who came was a mature woman in her 30s who gave off a capable aura. Leave her inspection to me. The woman looked at the female inspector and said indifferently. Annie Ren looked like she had swallowed a live rat. Her face was very ugly, and she could only squeeze out a voice from her teeth. Ollie, in a simple room that could be dismantled, Ollie casually pointed at the table and said indifferently, Take out all the things and spread them out one by one. What do you want to do? Auntie Rin subconsciously frowned and grasped her collar tightly. I warn you, don't mess around. Ollie sneered and said, Why? Do you think I will be interested in your fat body? Sitting in the office every day, your belly is bigger than before, right? Get lost. Auntie Rin sneered. My body shape is the best. Don't you know the actual combat weapon? I'm not like you, flesh against bone. Aren't you afraid of hurting a man to death? You have to have the opportunity to fight. Ollie didn't give it at all. Don't waste time. Take out the things and get lost after I see them. I'm very busy. Auntie Run was stunned. That's it. You don't need to take them off? Ollie said expressionlessly. I said, I'm not interested in your fat body. Don't think I don't know you because you put on makeup today. Sloppyling. I'm afraid I'll be suffocated by your smell. You old aunt who hasn't opened for a few years. I'm afraid you're full of stains. You mother asterisk cur. Madame Run was furious. She planned to have a cat fight on the spot, but suddenly thought of something. She said with a strange expression, You can't be deliberately waiting for me here, right? Are you still going to check? Otherwise, I'm going to go out and let the inspector outside come in. Baby Ollie, I know you the best. Her face was faintly ugly and even had the impulse to directly leave and change. But in the end, she sighed and silently checked the things that Renziling took out from the bag on the table. Speaking of which, why is it so strict? Auntie Ren frowned at this time. I heard that a guest house was attacked yesterday. Yesterday, the police cars in the city were speeding everywhere. Ollie, is there anyone who wants to take the opportunity to make trouble? It's okay if it's just making trouble. Ollie wanted to say something, but hesitated and immediately frowned. To be honest, although I don't know how you got the admission ticket, this kind of occasion is not suitable for you. If you want to leave, I'll arrange a green passage for you to leave. Do you think I'll leave? Anirin pointed at herself and stared at her. Ali suddenly stood up, forcibly turned Ren Xiling's body around, and quickly patted her body from top to bottom. Okay, the inspection is over. You can go out later. Don't talk too much in the meeting. It's best not to say anything. This is not a place where I can really raise my hand and ask questions. Unexpectedly, Anirin didn't immediately refute this time, but nodded gently and said yes. Before leaving, Ali suddenly asked, "By the way, have you seen Old Ma in the past 2 days?" "Old Ma?" Ren Xiling thought for a moment and said, "I haven't seen him since the last time I met you and Old Ma here. Why, are you looking for him? I'll call him for you." "I've called him, but his phone is off." Ali frowned. Maybe there's something, so it's not convenient to answer." Ren Xiling thought for a while and said, "Don't they always act like this? It's not like you don't know." Ali shook her head. "Nothing. You should go in quickly." Ren Xiling nodded, but suddenly said, "Hey, after you're done with your meeting, if you have time, come over to my house for a meal." "Are you serious?" Ali opened her mouth. Anirin snorted. "Don't misunderstand. I just want to hear my son call you Anne in front of me." Ali was not angry, but smiled slightly. "If that kid really thinks I'm his aunt, I will laugh in my dreams." Looking at Ali, who left quietly, Anirin was stunned for a while. She felt that this time she seemed to lose. In any case, the team from the third-rate magazine finally managed to sneak into the venue. "Old Q, why are you walking strangely? How do I know they are so serious about the anal examination?" Auntie Run and Lizzie looked at him with care and pity at the same time, and said in unison, "No, it's not like that." At the venue, in another special preparation area, the representatives of the diplomatic corps who came to the summit were waiting here. They had passed the preliminary examination and were arranged in this preparation area, so they were still cooperating. But all parties kept silent at this time and did not talk to other diplomatic corps representatives easily. The doors suddenly opened at this time, and Fire Cloud, Evil God, walked in with his hands behind his back, surrounded by a group of senior agents. Many of them had never seen this unparalleled national scholar of the administration, but when Fire Cloud, Evil God appeared, most of them had already guessed his identity. Soon, Fire Cloud, Evil God had walked in front of the diplomatic corps representatives. He looked around with a natural expression. Even though all supernatural powers were nothing in this forbidden city, the things that these people had accumulated over time wouldn't be so easily banned. Standing in front of these supernatural diplomatic corps representatives, most of the senior agents were already a little scared and even broke out in cold sweat. But who was Fire Cloud, Evil God? He was the peerless brute who could slash from Changbai Mountain all the way to Nanhai Bay and from Donghai all the way to the Great Plateau. He was not afraid of them. "We have passed the examination. Why can't we enter?" A voice came from the crowd. It was not proper Kelowna dialect, and even had a strong Western accent. It seemed to be learned at the last minute. Before entering, there are a few final examinations. Fire Cloud, Evil God said loudly. "This includes a blood test. I hope you can cooperate." "What?" A few suppressed but angry voices instantly sounded from several places in the crowd. In this preparation area of almost 1,000 people, the voices were still very clear. "You want to draw our blood? I will be the first to disagree." The voice gradually became gloomy. "Don't you know that our blood contains too many of our secrets? Do you think we will agree with what you're doing? The blood samples will be destroyed in front of everyone after the examination." Fire Cloud, Evil God said indifferently. "The Kelowna administration does not bother to collect information through this method. The reason for this is only to prevent people from taking poison into the venue. I believe that many of you here already know what happened to the priest of the primitive tribe from the non-Middle-earth continent." Suddenly, there was silence, and they all looked at Fire Cloud, Evil God. Fire Cloud, Evil God waved his hand, and a laser projection screen appeared behind him. "Now, I would like to announce the results of the shaman's autopsy." A pool of pus appeared on the screen, and it startled many people. Fire Cloud, Evil God waited for a moment, and then slowly said, Since you are all here, the administration does have the obligation to protect your safety, but we are only the administration of Kelowna, not the administration of the world. If someone took poison in his own home, can we not do anything about it? What do you mean? This guy, did he take this terrible poison from the beginning? Why can't it be because your defense is not good enough, and that gave the criminals a chance to take advantage of it? Kelowna administration, why should we believe you? Fire cloud, evil god's eyes suddenly focused. His gaze passed through the crowd and instantly landed on a short and small fellow. We could have not announced this at all, and not even carried out this inspection, but the ones who might suffer losses are all of you. I don't want to say too much or go too far. From now on, those who are willing to accept the last few tests, please enter from the left door. Those who are not, please leave from the right door, but at the same time, you will lose the qualification to participate in this summit. However, no matter what kind of agreement this summit will pass, those who leave and the countries behind them will not be able to enjoy the benefits of this summit agreement. Do you really think that your Kelowna administration has the right to speak in this world? A cold voice sounded. Fire cloud, evil god, coldly glanced at him and was about to speak. But at this time, a loud voice suddenly sounded. Night mechanism is willing to accept the last test, the left door, right? Mr. Grace was the first to walk out under the crowd's gaze. He was followed by two knights and directly walked to the left door. Everyone, I'll go first, enter early, and find a cool place. Seeing that the representative of Knight organization, Grace really led her people into the left passage, the crowd started to discuss among themselves. But at this time, another dissatisfied and unhappy voice sounded. This little white face is so fast. I should be the one to act tough. I only took a little more time to check the size of this big boob girl next to me. You people who don't even have a name, hurry up and die. Touch me. Umaba. Amen. Almighty God. In the crowd, a handsome blonde young man wearing a checkered shirt, big pants, and flip-flops walked out casually, accompanied by a strong old man and a blonde beauty. However, the face of the strong old man behind this young man was dark, and the blonde beauty's face was extremely ugly. Who is this guy? Stella. I heard that he is the holy son of the church, the former warden of the church's Godly Might prison. Don't talk behind people's backs. You don't have a chance to show up. You don't even have a name. No one will give you a raise, not even a lunchbox. The blonde young man. Stella turned around and stared at him. The holy knight and the holy nun of the church were not afraid that Stella would offend this group of people. They were afraid that the church's reputation would plummet. This damn guy. The church. At this moment, the blonde beauty grabbed the back of Stella's collar and dragged Stella into the passage on the left with a pale face. No one dared to act rashly. It was just that everyone's gazes were now filled with hostility as well as disdain for watching a show. The Magician Association will also cooperate with this inspection. Everyone, let's meet at the main hall. A red-skinned man walked out with big strides. The Magician Association had more people. There were 6 of them. The red-skinned man was one of the leaders of the association, Red Flame. Simple words and simple actions. This time, they were the leaders of 2 towers, which was enough to scare a large number of inhuman beings in Europe. The Knight's Secret Service, the Magician Association, and the Church were the oldest inhuman organizations in Euroland. Seeing that the 3 giants had agreed to the final inspection, the atmosphere at the scene became a little strange. Damn it. Even if we die in battle, we won't leave a corpse. Our blood contains too many secrets, but if we don't enter... Mr. Ching Ming, what do you think? In the crowd, a man wearing a white Taoist robe had a deep look in his eyes, as if he was thinking about something. Let's go in. After all, we are the local demon alliance of Kelowna. It doesn't make sense if we don't support the agency's actions. Ming Tushan chuckled and took the lead to walk out. Inspecting the blood of vampires. That's interesting. Let's go. What should I do? I have at least 1,000 poison in my body. Can I enter? A black uncle wizard with tattoos all over his body asked. The crowd started to disperse. Fire Cloud, evil god, had been watching expressionlessly. At this moment, One of his subordinates walked over and said in a low voice, "Consultant Long is here. Should we go and inspect her now? I've already arranged a separate room." Firecloud, evil god, glanced at this subordinate indifferently. "Didn't I feed you 6 walnuts when I left? Let her bleed. What the hell are you thinking, little genius? Didn't you say that you would treat everyone equally, including your own people?" Chapter 1953. Although Advisor Huyen was old, he still had to do his job. Soon, some agents left the venue in the preparation area and went to the special passage to welcome Long Shua. "Advisor Long, this way, please." "All right. Are you alone? You can bring 2 participants with you." "Is there a problem with me being alone? Can't I just like myself?" "Who told you that you have to bring a follower with you when you go out? Do you like to follow people around when you have nothing to do?" Yes. They didn't do anything to offend this lady. Her attitude was very good. They didn't find anything to be picky about, and she didn't mention any inspection. Basically, it was green light all the way. It was like they had eaten gunpowder. Therefore, the agents obediently followed behind this Kelowna Shinryu and didn't dare to make sound. Unexpectedly, Kelowna Shinryu suddenly stopped. "Advisor Long, what's the matter?" They became even more respectful. "How do we get there?" Long Shua squinted and asked, "Why are you following me without leading the way?" "Damn, this Kelowna Shinryu is really difficult. She won't be able to find a boyfriend for the rest of her life." "All right, have Baijia and the others arrived?" Long Shua was suddenly asked. Speaking of which, the agent thought for a while and said, "The representative of Taoism hasn't arrived yet." "Advisor Long, do you want me to go and ask?" "Send me a message later." Long Shua nodded indifferently and then said, "Where's the seat you arranged for me?" "It's already arranged." The agent quickly said, "It's in the special seat on the 2nd floor, separated by curtains." Advisor Huyen said that if you don't want to talk, you could just sit in the special seat. Long Shua nodded. If she knew this would happen, she would have brought the computer. After entering the main venue, there was another scene. Currently, there was no one in the media area. Of course, all the equipment had been prepared. The first to enter was the night mechanism that had completed the last few inspections. Unlike what Gareth had said, they didn't come in early to find their seats. The list of seats had already been arranged properly. After the night institution, delegation entered the venue, someone immediately led them to their corresponding seats. The seating arrangement is arranged according to the first letter of your name. Mr. Gareth, your seat will be placed towards the back, the guide said in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. "Is that so?" Mr. Gareth smiled casually. "I hope the next meeting won't be so troublesome. I'm still quite interested in a fixed seat in the front row." The person leading the way could only pretend that he didn't hear anything and didn't dare to say anything. The night mechanism had not yet been set down, but the church's envoys had already been let in. However, it seemed that the church's envoys were not that easy to deal with. "I like this seat. I'll sit here." Father Stella glanced at the nameplate on the seat and sat in the middle of the first row without saying anything. "Don't tell me this seat is already taken. I'll change with him. If he doesn't want to change, I'll bully him and beat him until he's willing to change. What rubbish country is sitting in front of me? I hate people like you who talk about fairness the most. If it was really fair, I wouldn't be here." Was this really the church's envoys and not some hooligans from some bad group? However, it had to be said that the words of this priest made the workers in the venue speechless. Stella was like an incomparably sharp knife, suddenly stabbing at you, directly breaking the cloth that people habitually covered their faces, using his vulgarity to directly face your filth and darkness. What should we do? They cannot be too forceful in this place. Regardless of whether the priest in the church's diplomatic mission was truly vulgar or deliberately so, one thing they had to consider was that this was a huge religion with more than 2 billion followers in the world. Of course, the number of loyal followers was definitely not that huge. However, with such a huge number of followers, the influence of the church was incomparably troublesome. "How about it? Are you still letting me go? If you don't let me go, I'll just sit here." Father Stella directly lifted his legs on the table and placed his hands on the chair on both sides. Since Mr. Stella insists, we'll deal with it later. Please sit here first. The person in charge nodded and then pulled him away. Father Stella's gaze was at this moment. Seeing that the people just left, he rubbed his chin and said, "It's said that the people in this country have a good temper and like to be good people. They believe in the doctrine of the mean. This temper is too good. If it were me, I'd definitely do it. Why are you two looking at me like that? Is it because you admire my probing? Lavinia, have you been intimidated by my bastard aura and decided to go against your lifelong wish and climb into my bed tonight? Lord, please guide this sinner." The blonde beauty put her hands together at this time, looking worried and muttering. "Lavinia, what are you muttering here? Why can't I hear a word?" Father Stella asked curiously at this time. In this regard, the old knight Wasco could only respond with a helpless sigh. Stella, this bitch, was pretending not to hear the prayers here again. If it weren't for the holy power in this guy's body that was purer than the petitioner's, he would really be a complete heretic. This is the legendary former warden of Godly Might Prison who disappeared. In the seat behind, Mr. Gareth looked at him thoughtfully and smiled. What an interesting person. What do you think? He looked at an ordinary-looking knight beside him who seemed to be inconspicuous, Yin Xiaoxi, who was wearing a brand-new human skin mask. After a moment of silence, Yin Xiaoxi said softly, "If this person can really achieve the unity of knowledge and action, then it's very scary." Unity of knowledge and action? Mr. Gareth frowned. How do you understand this sentence? You can think of it as a particularly pure kind of guy, Yin Xiaoxi said calmly. I kind of want to fight with this guy. The one who spoke was another young man dressed in the night mechanism beside Mr. Gareth. It must be very interesting. Mr. Gareth could not help but sigh. In addition to the disguised Yin Xiaoxi, there was also a disguised Tukai beside him. How did it become like this? He felt that he was not confident enough to participate in this meeting. The two beside him were undercover, and he was the only one who was serious about being the representative of the night mechanism, a commander by himself. Knowing you is the biggest mistake in my life. Yin Xiaoxi did not care at this time, and just whispered to Tukai, Senior, pay close attention to every representative who enters the venue. Maybe Gongsun Shiyu will also enter the venue. We still don't know what he is planning to do now. I'll do my best. Tukai smiled bitterly. If he is not as high profile as this Stella and keeps a low profile, it will not be easy. They entered the venue one after another. The number of representatives in the main venue increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. This is really interesting. It is obviously in a forbidden space, but it unexpectedly makes people feel dangerous. At this time, the red-skinned, crimson-blazed Tower Master smiled at the vampire girl accompanying him and said, Most of the people here are not humans in their respective areas, but they are also people who have the right to speak. Why, Elizabeth, you are a student of Radiance and will have the opportunity to succeed the Tower Master in the future. Pay attention to these guys. Succeed the Tower Master? I never thought of that. The vampire girl suddenly became nervous. The Crimson Blaze Tower Master said indifferently, In the association other than Radiance, we don't have any students. But we all think highly of you. Or rather, we believe in Radiance's vision. Of course, if you're really not qualified, we will not push you to the position of Tower Master. But if you still have the slightest chance, we will not give you up so easily. After all, humans are selfish like this. From an emotional point of view, we will naturally lean towards our own people. But be more confident, why Elizabeth. At this time, the Ice Tower Master pressed on the vampire girl's shoulders and said softly, You will lack support by your side. While speaking, the Ice Tower Master intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Zhong Luoyue, who had been very cautious and reserved all this time. This third miss of the Zhong family was stunned. She could only put on a puzzled expression in response to the Ice Tower Master's meaningful smile. Long time no see, Crimson Blaze Tower Master, Ice Tower Master. At this time, a slightly pale young man with a warm smile on his face slowly walked over with a group of people. The young man instantly attracted the attention of the Crimson Blaze Tower Master and the Ice Tower Master. Baylegan, the Crimson Blaze Tower Master nodded. It has been a while since we parted at the association headquarters. I heard that after you went back, you quickly reorganized the 13 clans. As expected of the legendary hero of the war 100 years ago. You should have this ability. This is not something to be praised. The young man, Baylegan, smiled and said, I only reorganized the balance of the 13 clans. I hope to lead the clans to a correct future. The Ice Tower Master said indifferently, I heard that the various large farms within your clan are very chaotic. A group of ancient human descendants that were raised in captivity by your clan seems to have a goddess, and right? Why, it hasn't troubled you. I thought that just dealing with a farm's uprising would be enough to give you a headache. After all, most of the food source was cut off. Thank you for your concern, Ice Tower Master. Baylegan said casually, the farm's matter is indeed a bit troublesome, but is not to the extent that the clan can't eat. Besides, this summit is related to the situation of the entire world's supernatural power. No matter how troublesome it is, I have to take some time. The Ice Tower Master laughed it off. At this time, Baylegan looked at Elizabeth. Walking closer, this legendary hero of the 13 clans, the youngest and also recognized as the most powerful vampire, directly bowed to the vampire girl. Miss Elizabeth, hello. I know that the Radiance Tower Master has accepted you as his last disciple. It is the honor of the 13 clans. I should have visited you earlier, but I just couldn't find the time. Hello. The vampire girl nodded lightly at this time. Baylegan suddenly said, Miss Elizabeth, there is one thing that I want to ask you. Elizabeth was a bit surprised. What is it? Baylegan said, I opened some information of the clan's internal monitoring organization and found that earlier, Miss Elizabeth seemed to have appeared in a manner in the modern world. You seem to have participated in a vampire gathering, right? Yes, there was such a thing. What's the problem? Baylegan said, according to the person in charge of monitoring. In addition to Miss Elizabeth, there was a mysterious person at that time. This mysterious person also called himself or X, right? That was Brother Luo's disguise. Elizabeth frowned suddenly and became vigilant. Brother Luo seemed to have disguised this name in order to protect her. Later, Elizabeth saw the grudge between the last Dream Eater Erex and the Grand Dukes of the 13 clans in the files of the Magician Association. Only then did she know why the member of the monitoring team was so afraid. I can't let others know that Brother Luo appeared. I can't cause trouble for Brother Luo. I have to be a good woman who can help him. That's right. The vampire girl nodded at this time, and her expression gradually changed. She seemed to be more resolute all of a sudden. What's the relationship between Miss Elizabeth and this Mr. Erex? Good friends. Really good friends? Baylegan frowned. The vampire girl nodded at this time. Why? Do I need your excellency's permission to make a friend? Although I'm also a vampire, I'm just from small family. I haven't been involved in the matters of the 13 clans. Seeing that the Crimson Blaze Tower Master and the Ice Tower Master directly cast a stern gaze at this time, the new king of the clan smiled slightly. Of course, I don't mean that. It's just that Erex and I have some relationship. However, I haven't heard from him for a long time, so I specially asked Miss Elizabeth. Don't misunderstand. I don't know where he is. The vampire girl said directly. I can't find him either. He came to me. I can't help you. I see. Baylegan nodded. Sorry to disturb you. I'll take my seat. Seeing that Baylegan didn't make things difficult and left directly, the vampire girl slowly breathed a sigh of relief at this time. She looked at Zhong Luoyue with excitement, clenching her small fist, and said, Didn't I do very well just now? He didn't ask for anything. Zhong Luoyue gently touched Elizabeth's head. You've done very well. But you're almost the same as saying it. Zhong Luoyue slowly breathed a sigh of relief, but at this time, she met the eyes of the two tower masters at the same time, as if to say, take it slow. At this time, a cry of surprise sounded. It instantly attracted the attention of the people who had entered the venue. This voice was the voice of Father Stella. This is not Lamius. TSK. You finally thought it through and want to fall into my arms. Let me sacrifice my body for you. The excited Father Stella at this time ignored the persuasion of the people around him at this time, directly rushed to the front of a woman in a black tight leather jacket, and pretended to hug her. But he was directly kicked to the ground by the woman in the black and gold leather jacket. At this time, the woman directly stepped on Father Stella's face at this time, bent down and frowned. Who are you? Why do you speak in the same tone as that trash Stella, illegitimate child? Paladin Wasco suddenly stood up. No matter how cheap Stella's mouth was, he was still the unannounced successor of the future pope. But he was trampled to the ground by the new chief of the Black Order. F***CK. This can't be tolerated. Hashtag PS. As usual. Chapter 1954. The other preparation area was the preparation area for the media. 2 staff members pushed open the door to the waiting area. Now the media can prepare to enter. Please maintain order and enter one by one. In addition, please bring the receiver we have prepared so that we can check your movements at any time. After entering, any movement that requires temporary departure must be reported to us through the receiver. People walked silently to receive the receiver. In the team. Speaking of which, what kind of people are these transcendence representatives from various countries? In a media waiting area, Old Q suddenly asked curiously, although a lot of strange things have happened, to be honest, I have never seen this kind of guy with my own eyes. Annie Wren's palms were pressed on her knees at this time, her fingers flicking. Obviously, her heart was not too calm at this time. Who cares if he has 3 heads and 6 arms or 2 mouths? Since we are here, we will know later. But since they are the representatives of the forces behind them, they shouldn't cause any trouble. They should focus on the overall situation, right? Well, that makes sense. Old Q nodded thoughtfully. After all, it's such a big occasion, not a kindergarten playground. There shouldn't be any problems, right? In the main venue, seeing that Paladin Wasco was about to step forward and confront the new chief of the Black Order, how could the control staff stand still? Do these people follow the rules? Follow the rules. Since most of them came to this city and waited for the official opening of the conference, they were quite well behaved. But they knew that these representatives from all over the world were actually just watching. These people, every representative here was a giant in their own field. They were all people who were used to being domineering in their own fields. The administration's data survey showed that most transcendents belong to different degrees of paranoia. The shortcomings that humans could find would basically be magnified in these people, but the advantages would also be magnified at the same time. They could be the most dangerous people in the world, but they could also be the best people in the world. Uncertainty. They were more like children full of all kinds of problems. But the control staff was still half a beat slower when the incident happened. Wasco had already walked in front of Lamia's with an ashen face and pulled up Father Stella, who had a shoe print on his cheek. Black Order. It's been so many years. It seems that you all lack an opportunity to be wiped out. I'm so scared. Lamia's chuckled. She moved closer and spoke in a voice that only a few people could hear. I wonder how many people are left in your church's Holy Night camp. All right, I heard that you lost 5 descending angels. None of them escaped. In an instant, Wasco's expression changed. Regardless of whether it was the loss of 2/3 of the Holy Knights or the death of the 5 angels, it was a top secret for the church. In order to cover it up, they even announced to the public that the missing Holy Knights were carrying out another top secret mission. How did this woman find out? Don't worry, I don't plan to announce these things to the public. Seeing the expression on Wasco's face, Lamia said casually, information is more valuable because it's not easily circulated. I'm looking forward to your so-called wiping out. So, under Wasco's uncertain gaze, Lamia's led her people to the seating area. The control staff arrived, but the conflict somehow calmed down. They were relieved, but they could not really relax because more and more transcendent representatives had passed the final test and were ready to take their seats. This girl is too full of herself. Father Stella suddenly smacked his lips. TSK. Her legs are so strong. I can play with them for 3 months. Shut up. Don't you think you've embarrassed yourself enough? Wasco shouted in a deep voice. Father Stella walked away, leaving Wasco alone. Father Stella ran to the seat of the Magician Association. This made Miss Nun Lavinia, who was praying in her seat, rush out in fright and pull Father Stella back. What are you doing? I'm just going to say hello to that bastard and flirt with his wife. Father Strahl said casually, Don't worry. There's nothing going on between me and his wife. Look at Frosty wearing a skirt every day. You know she's doing it on purpose. This woman's legs are not beautiful. I've seen them before. They're bow-legged and short. Not fun. Stella, if you have the guts, fight with me outside the city and then come back for the meeting. If I don't sew up your shit-spewing mouth and seal it with molten steel, I won't be the Tower Master anymore. The sound of gnashing teeth. *T. Are you serious? If I can't hold back and break your waist, what will happen to your wife? Anyway, I won't accept it. Your wife is so fierce. I'm afraid I can't stand it. The Scarlet Blaze Tower Master was trembling with anger at this time. He clenched his fists, rushed down the stairs, and rushed to the front of Father Stella. However, at this moment, a strong light instantly shone on them. It was the strong light in the venue. This will be a live broadcast to the whole world on all channels. I don't mind turning on the communication now. Let the whole world's billions of people, including the organizations behind you, see what you look like now. Also, if you want to fight, call me. I like to fight the most. It was the voice of Fire Cloud, Evil God. Seeing this, the Magician Association naturally couldn't sit still and quickly came over. The Ice Tower Master directly came forward and pulled the Scarlet Blaze Tower Master. After whispering a few words, she successfully persuaded the Scarlet Blaze Tower Master. She then looked at Father Stella and said indifferently, I haven't seen you for so many years, but your mouth is still so cheap. Stella, you don't have to be like this at all. If you didn't like to talk nonsense when the almond incident happened and you were condemned by the Pope's palace, there wouldn't be a single person who spoke up for you. I don't see you speaking up for me, Father Stella said with a smile. Little Icy, am I not good to you? I still remember you used to call me Little Trent. The Scarlet Blaze Tower Master, who had just calmed his anger, suddenly gritted his teeth, scaring Jean-Louis and Elizabeth to quickly persuade him. Hey, the quality of the members of your association is so high, Father Stella said with surprise. TTSK, this is the type who looks dignified on the outside, but is open on the inside. Wow, this little girl is even better. She's completely a sissy. Looking at her, I want to jump ship to your association. Don't bother. Give me the position of Radiance. I'll lead your association to rule Europe tomorrow. Stella, the Ice Tower Master suddenly came closer and lowered her voice. Why, Elizabeth, this is Amon's granddaughter. You can do as you see fit. Father Stella did not say a word at this time. He directly turned around. He did not return to the position he occupied at the beginning. Instead, he went to the position where his nameplate was originally placed and sat down like a dead dog. The storm seemed to have calmed down, but the smell of gunpowder did not dissipate. Fire Cloud, Evil God, shook his head. Fortunately, this was the city of exclusion. Otherwise, with so many transcendents present, he would not be able to defeat 10 of them. Start the live broadcast immediately. Fire Cloud, Evil God thought at this time and said, There's no need to wait. Let these guys be exposed to the public's eyes. People need face and tree bark. There are not many who are shameless. I'll do it right away. This is the legendary warden of the former Godly Might prison. A man wearing a Inyang master robe who just entered the venue looked thoughtfully at this time. There's a rumor in Europe that this former warden gave his enemies a headache with just his mouth. Wherever he went, people couldn't help but retreat. Today, I see that he really lives up to his reputation. Lord Qingming, our position is here. Now, the exciting moment has finally arrived. I'm the host of this XXDV. In the basement of the secondhand electrical shop, a group of people gathered in front of the screen at this time. Bernard was busy capturing the faces on each screen through the camera. He was almost too busy. At this time, Mr. Jean was sitting on a folding chair with his arms crossed in front of his chest, silent. For the whole day today, The people here would only stay in front of the screen and watch everything in the venue. This was indeed a live broadcast conference for the whole world. In a coastal port city, the barefoot little girl in a black dress loosened her hands at this time. A red-haired woman slowly fell to the ground, motionless. The little girl casually reached out and wiped a touch of blood from her lips, and her dark red eyes gradually returned to black. In the dim room, the screen of the old-fashioned TV blinked, and occasionally snowflakes flashed by, reflecting the fluorescent light on the little girl's crystal face. The little girl supported her chin lazily, and her long black hair fell to the floor. A group of monkeys are acting. Humph! At this moment, something was pecking at the windowsill in the room. The little girl frowned and waved her hand, and the window door opened directly. A lark flew directly into the room at this time. The lark flew to the little girl's side and then put down a jade slip in its mouth. The little girl picked up the jade scroll and put on her forehead. After a while, she chuckled and said, "You came just in time. I was worried that I wouldn't feel any pain after destroying so many branches. Now I know where your base is. There's a signal, sir. Please look, please listen." In the depths of the desert, in a tent, everyone surrounded a laptop. The man in the lead with his eyes closed was carving something with a piece of wood in his hand at this time. "You don't have to turn up the sound so loud. I want to hear the flow of chi outside." "Okay, sir. Wow. I see the young master of Purple Star." "Hey, Lang Yong, you're blocking me. Don't take my position." "Ah, it's at Sir Juefeng. Why are you here? Aren't you in the depths of the holy cave?" "Purple Star is not here. I'm not afraid. I cultivate every day. I feel that my brain has become stupid." "Lang Wu, do you have beef jerky and soda?" "Here." "Huh. Strange. Why don't I see my brother Xiao Fei?" A tanned young man walked forward at this time, held the TV directly with both hands, and looked around. Then the signal was gone. In the Forbidden City, in a corner of the square outside a shopping mall in the city, a gray-haired guy wearing sunglasses and carrying a large wooden box as tall as a person was casually leaning against the flower trough and rubbing his calves. He seemed to be tired from walking and was resting here. Many people were here at this time, looking at the huge screen on the outer wall of the mall. At this time, someone passed by and put down a 5 yuan note in front of this gray-haired guy. The young man put it away with a smile and said, "Benefactor, you will have good luck, immeasurable, heavenly, venerable." "Hey, you're a Taoist?" The kind-hearted person couldn't help but be curious at this time. "I'm a heavenly master." The gray-haired guy smiled. "The heavenly master of Mount Longhu?" "You're the heavenly master of Mount Longhu?" Why didn't the heavenly master of Mount Longhu go to the venue inside for a meeting? The kind-hearted person smiled at this time. "I'm also the sword immortal of the Forbidden City, known as the Little White Dragon who can overturn rivers and seas. I want to, but they don't invite me, so what can I do? I'm just a small fry in the pugilistic world. Not worth mentioning." The gray-haired guy shook his head and then laid down on the ground with his hands as a pillow and his legs crossed. He smiled and recited a poem to himself. The young man listens to the rain songs upstairs. The red candles dim the curtains. The young man listens to the rain in the boat. The broad river and the low clouds. The broken wild geese call the west wind. The kind-hearted person shook his head, looking like a fool. Main venue. In a private lounge inside the venue, Riaz was tidying his clothes in front of the mirror, looking a little nervous. The screen on the wall was playing the scene of everyone taking their seats. "Lyoga, it's really uncomfortable to wear the clothes of the people on the ground. Can I not wear this thing around my neck?" "Up to you." The female demon of the underwater city was lying on the sofa in boredom, rubbing her head. "When can we appear? It seems like there's an introduction before we can enter. As for the specific time, let me see the arrangement of the meeting." So troublesome. The female demon Lyoga yawned, then narrowed her eyes and looked at the busy Riaz. She suddenly smiled and said, "I'm tired, Riaz. Come over and massage my shoulders." "Didn't you just wake up?" At this time, Lyoga suddenly covered her stomach and rolled on the sofa, shouting, it's so hard, so hard. My life is so hard. My child, my life is so hard. Riaz opened his mouth, then smiled bitterly and sighed. At that time, I should have controlled myself. Suddenly, the door of the lounge slowly opened. The person who entered was a tall man with a square face. Lyoga furrowed her brows. She sensed a domineering aura from this square-faced man. Who are you? We don't seem to have seen you before. Lyoga asked directly. I'm Huang Chuan. The tall man with a square face said indifferently. I'm the chief of the 3rd section of the Special Operations Group of the Kelowna administration and one of the main people in charge of this summit meeting. Please come with me. So soon, Riaz subconsciously looked at the arrangement of the meeting in his hand. Isn't it not time yet? Prince Riaz, there are some last-minute changes in the meeting. Huang Chuan smiled and said, We've thought about it, and we think it's better to arrange it now. Presumably, everyone can't wait to meet you. Is that so? Riaz subconsciously looked at Lyoga. Then arrange it. The female demon of the underwater city said indifferently. Anyway, I don't want to stay here. It's too boring. Please come with me. Huang Chuan said with a smile. Hashtag, 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 hashtag PS1. 3/4 PS2. The denominator becomes 4. Thanks to Lemon Candy 2. This love whip equals. Chapter 1955. AMPV slowly drove into the designated area of the summit. Song Howren had been waiting for a long time at the place where the MPV stopped. After the MPV stopped, the 100 Tribulation Taoist and the other Taoist elders got off the MPV. President. Song Howren stepped forward and greeted him. Little Song, I'm sorry for making you wait for us for such a long time. The 100 Tribulation Taoist laughed. I'm old, so I'm slow. Young man, you don't mind, right? Song Howren didn't say anything courteous. He immediately said, President, they've all entered the main hall. We have to hurry up. We're late this time. We're lucky to make it in time. Let's go in. The 100 Tribulation Taoist nodded. Although they weren't as fast as Kelowna and Shinryu, they weren't too slow. However, they had consumed a lot of vitality when suppressing the Ghost Gate, so they took the time to recover outside and entered the city at dawn. Did anything special happen while we were away? The 100 Tribulation Taoist suddenly asked. I heard that the hotel where the Taoist Association stayed was attacked in the middle of the night. It's solved, but the attacker died, and the body was taken away by the administration. Song Howren said casually, the process was a bit slow, but it's a good thing. Do you know who did it? Song Howren shook his head. They're too tight-lipped, so I couldn't get anything out of them. However, similar attacks have happened in other places these days. It seems that there are still some people who don't want this meeting to go smoothly. Okay, the 100 Tribulation Taoist said thoughtfully, then let's go in. Little Song, you can use my place and come with me. Thank you for your hard work during this time. Am I suitable, President? Song Howren frowned. No one is more suitable than you. The 100 Tribulation Taoist smiled mysteriously. To some extent, your words are more useful than ours. As long as you're willing to speak at the right time. Don't waste your advantage that others don't have. When the time is right. Song Howren nodded. I hope so. It seemed that this old man had been eyeing the 200 to 300 Demon Clan tokens in his hands for a long time. Right at this moment. This is not Mr. Baijia. Long time no see. It was a hearty laugh, but it wasn't a hearty person. Instead, it was a smiling little old man with a walking stick on his back. He seemed to be accompanied by a dozen or so other people. Haha, isn't this Mr. Turtle? It's been a long time indeed. The 100 Tribulation Taoist stroked his beard and said, coincidentally, I'm going to enter the arena. Mr. Turtle, would you like to join us? Do I dare to disobey? The little old man. Chi-Chi Kamaya chuckled. Master Baijia has invited me. Even if I have to go through a mountain of blades and a sea of flames, this old man can still accompany you. At this moment, the 100 Tribulation Taoist was looking behind Chi-Chi Kamaya. He had some impression of Ghost Baby. However, he was not sure about the masked woman beside Ghost Baby. Under the state of prohibition, even if his mind was as clear as a mirror, he would still be dizzy and muddle-headed. Who is this girl? Don't you remember, Mr. Baijia? This is the princess of Xianyuan Palace. The hundred tribulation Taoist couldn't help being stunned. He forced a smile and said, "If Old Turtle says so, then so be it. Let's go in." After you, after you." Chichi Kamaya hurriedly declined. "After you, Old Turtle. After you." The hundred tribulation Taoist courteously declined. They were courteous to each other all the way. It was like an old leader meeting an old leader. Nobody wanted to leave. In the end, Ghost Baby rolled his eyes and directly led the masked Jessica into the arena. "These two old foxes." Song Howard smiled as he muttered. Soon after, he called over a follower and instructed in a low voice, "Go and prepare." "Yes, young master." In the main hall, seeing the hundred tribulation Taoist and Chichi Kamaya appear together, Fire Cloud, evil god, couldn't help but frown. However, he didn't say anything. He just followed them from afar and nodded to each other as a greeting. Consultants, basically all of them, have entered the arena. Those below probably don't want to do the final inspection and are planning to give up. Time's up. Let's not wait anymore. Let them begin. Fire Cloud, evil god, immediately said. Then, before the subordinate left, he secretly stuffed a piece of paper in a Fire Cloud, evil god's hand. Only then did he leave, as if nothing had happened. On the first day of the summit, there would not be any discussion about the influence of supernatural forces on society in the entire morning. Instead, the representatives of various diplomatic corps would take the stage and briefly introduce the basic situation of the supernatural organization they belonged to the audience all over the world. One of the main purposes of this meeting was to introduce the supernatural forces to the entire human society. From the moment this summit was decided, the announcement of the supernatural forces in the world was already set in stone. Since they could no longer hide in the shadows, they might as well openly expose themselves to the light. And the first to make a report was the organizer of this summit, Kelowna's authority. Fire Cloud, evil god, was the most suitable candidate. However, he couldn't do the introductory work. Therefore, the authority specially selected a representative to speak this time. The authority was established in the second year after XIN was founded. It would be a long reporting process. Just a joint meeting between a few countries would take a few days, let alone a meeting of the transcendence of the world. It would take even longer, but the reports would be kept as short as possible. Basically, it would be enough to give the world a general understanding of each supernatural force's origin, purpose, scope of activities, and so on, because there were too many groups of various sizes. And that wasn't even counting the groups that didn't want to go through the final inspection. Most of them were active in regions where modern civilization wasn't very active. Perhaps they thought that the agreements and activities between these big countries could not affect their own areas. For example, in areas like the far north, because of the weather conditions, they had always maintained a relatively clean environment. This kind of report was very tedious and boring for superhumans. But for normal humans, it was a piece of knowledge that they had never heard of before. And now, humans were absorbing the supernatural knowledge in a frenzy. After saying so much, perhaps everyone still can't directly understand the so-called supernatural power. Finally, when the authority of Kelowna's 10-minute report was about to end, the authority's spokesperson finally said, "The following is a 15-second clip. I hope it can provide some reference for everyone." At the same time, a video was shown on every channel's live stream. The man in the video was wearing a white training suit, and his sideburns were white. In front of the man, there were steel plates that were 3 centimeters long. There were a total of 20 steel plates. The man placed his hand on the first steel plate. Then, he exhaled, and the 20 steel plates were instantly pierced through by an invisible force. Similar holes with a diameter of 0.5 meter appeared on the steel plates, one after another. This isn't a special effect. This is supernatural power. That's the report from the authority of Kelowna. Thank you, everyone. Leaving aside the expressions of the humans who were watching the live stream from around the world, the various representatives in the main hall had different reactions. TSK, to think you would do such a thing. That old Fire Cloud is really shameless? In the special box, Shinryu of Kelowna looked down at Fire Cloud, evil god, in the middle of the hall with a look of disdain. That old bastard's face was not red, and his heart was not beating fast. What a shameless old man. Damn it, you said you'd code it. Fire Cloud, evil god, looked straight ahead and faced the gazes of the people in the hall with an unfathomable look. Which little genius thought of this? Why did I make this video in the first place? Deduct wages. Deduct wages. Be that as it may, the representatives of the various diplomatic missions in the venue quickly withdrew their gazes. While the Fire Cloud Evil God's promotional video was enough to make the world gasp in awe, there were plenty of people who could do it to such an extent, and so they were not overly shocked. They were more concerned about who would be the one to make the report after the authority. The authority of Kelowna was the organizer, regardless of their own strength. It was reasonable for them to make the report first. It could be considered as throwing a brick to attract jade, so no one deliberately made things difficult for them. But as for the second representative to make the report, just like in the society of ordinary people, there was the concept of big countries and super countries. In the world of supernatural and inhuman, there was the concept of giants. There were so many continents in the world, and each continent had its own powerful supernatural and inhuman forces. Across the ocean, most of them had lived in peace for thousands of years. But this time, it might mean the right to speak in the next meeting. To be fair, we'll use the method of drawing lots. The spokesperson of the authority ordered someone to bring in a box and said slowly. Everyone had different reactions, but obviously it did not cross their bottom line. They reluctantly acquiesced to the authority's operation. Thus, under the watchful eyes of the audience and billions of people around the world, the spokesperson slowly reached his hand into the box. Now, the result is in my hand. Next, I'll announce the second representative to make the report. The spokesperson took a deep breath, then slowly opened the result in his hand and glanced at it. After reading it, the spokesman's face couldn't help but be slightly stunned. But after all, he had quite good psychological quality, so after a short moment of surprise, he quickly took a deep breath and read aloud. From the South American continent, let's welcome the first pope of the new supernatural group, Baki sect, God Mr. Giba, to the stage. It felt like when the spokesperson read the name of the second representative to make the report, all his courage had been drained. And why do you look so weird? In the seating area, Mr. Gareth couldn't help but curiously look at the guy who disguised as his knight. Do you know this god, Giba? I don't know him, Yin Xiaoxi said firmly. But you seem to be. On the other side, Tu Kai suddenly patted Mr. Gareth's shoulder and whispered with a smile. This is the essence of the civilization of Kelowna. You don't understand. Ha! God, Mr. Giba, this is F*** King the best. Let's welcome the first pope of Baki sect, God Mr. Giba, to the stage. In the media area, Auntie Run, who was immersed in copying notes, subconsciously took a sip of the coffee handed over by Lizzie. Then she spat it out. Fortunately, she didn't choke and almost cried. She widened her eyes, raised her neck, and looked at the main screen of the venue in a daze. Where did this talent come from? Auntie Wren didn't bother to wipe the stain on her lips at this time. She stared at the face on the main screen of the venue. It was a dark-skinned man who looked like he was about 27 or 28 years old. He had a strong body, a head full of small braids, and wore a big gold chain and a white robe. At this time, he was uneasy and slowly stood up with his hand raised under the gaze of everyone. Well, this outfit matches his name very well. Auntie Wren shook her head and quickly wrote it down in her notebook. She instinctively wrote the word rooster in the blank space. But as soon as she finished writing, she quickly scratched out and wrote the word Giba. Isn't this Mr. Buggy a little younger? In front of the TV, Boss Luo asked curiously. Miss Maid turned her palm at this time, and a silver tablet computer fell into her hand. She glanced at it casually. There are records of him exchanging for youth potions. He should have used it. Boss Luo smiled slightly and didn't say anything. What no one knew was that the reason behind this godly man who was now standing on the world's extraordinary stage was just because of a tablet computer, a club PAD that could be exchanged for items by consuming the power of faith. I don't see Lucifer, Boss Luo suddenly said at this time. Miss May didn't care. Those gazes made his heart beat violently. But fortunately, he was used to big scenes. Baki, the godly man, Baki, could also be calm at this time. He took a deep breath and subconsciously patted the mysterious pad that he carried with him. He felt confident all of a sudden. He hid a secret. In this place where extraordinary power was forbidden, his mysterious pad could still be used. Although it couldn't be exchanged for anything with conventional lethality, it could be exchanged for things like curing diseases and saving people. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. Baki slowly walked to the stage step by step under everyone's gaze. He thought silently in his heart, "It's not scary at all. I'll just treat it as a drug transaction site." "Hello, everyone, I am." He stood on the podium and introduced himself with the Chinese that he learned in the past few days, the world's greatest Baki. Hashtag, 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 hashtag PS. As usual. Chapter 1956. It was as if they were just there for the show. Even the ancient extraordinary organizations rarely heard of the new religion. In the first place, extraordinary civilizations were not particularly developed in the South American continent since ancient times. But since they could enter the venue, it meant that when the Kelowna Authority sent out the invitation, they had already evaluated the potential of this new religion. They believed that it, or its future, was qualified to enter the venue. Why don't I have any information about this new transcendent? Many similar voices quietly appeared in the huge venue. It wasn't until the Pope, the first person of the Baji divine sect, began to introduce the situation of his own divine sect that these oversights were faced with reality. This God could respond to the requests of the believers and fulfill the wishes of the believers. The more devout the believers were, the greater the response they could get. Since the birth of the Baji religion, the first pope would fulfill the wishes of a devout believer every week. These wishes were strange, but they could all be fulfilled in the end. Even these wishes that were fulfilled included the ultimate proposition of life and death. The first pope of the religion actually resurrected a person who had just died. Why do I feel that he has some ability similar to the legendary God? There are all kinds of abilities, but there is no fixed type. However, there's almost no information about his combat power. The omnipotent and omniscient one. I like this guy, to be honest. Father Stella, who had not said a word since he sat down like a dead dog, suddenly looked at the first pope on the stage with admiration and said with a smile, "This guy is definitely a devil's believer. He exudes desire from head to toe. It's simply a combination of the ugly desires of human beings. He's really a F***king genius." Don't you think that the purpose of this new religion always inexplicably conflicts or directly overlaps with the ideas of the church? Sister Lavinia frowned at this time. Wasco did not speak. What's so strange about that? The so-called doctrines that this guy is now announcing are clearly pieced together from the books of other religions. Basically, the ideas of several mainstream religions are used. It's not messed up. That's why I say this guy is really a genius. Father Strahl said, "That's why I said this guy is really a genius." Maybe there's someone guiding him from behind. Sister Lavinia thought for a moment and said, "No matter how miraculous his power is, it is impossible for a single person to establish a large enough sect in such a short time. However, resurrection from the dead is indeed a taboo that humans should not touch." Father Stella said indifferently, "There is no forbidden area that humans can't go to. As long as there is a chance, any forbidden area is the Roman Avenue. Lavinia, for example, your forbidden area. If there is a chance, I will definitely go in and travel to see if it is spacious or narrow. Lord, please don't forget to save this unforgivable sinner." Stella, Father Stella couldn't hear it all at this time. He just said to himself, "This Pope, if there is a chance, I must become sworn brothers with him." Old Knight Wasco had no courage to listen to it anymore. But at this time, the first person of the new God Church, the Pope's speech on the stage, seemed to be coming to an end. It was only less than 5 minutes. There was no publicity clip like the Kelowna Authority that was used to show off, and there was no good copywriting. The talented believers around him were all his fanatical fans. If he asked them to write a copywriting, they could help him blow up the universe. Even Bucky himself felt ashamed when he read it. He had no choice but to make up some words on the spot. But this new God church had no historical background to speak of, and it could even be introduced in a few words. Bucky even felt that his wisdom had exceeded his usual level to be able to make up a story for a few minutes. As for showing off his skills on the spot, directly using the mysterious pad to create something to shock the world, and then striking while the iron was hot to harvest the most willing believers in the world, he didn't even think about it. It was impossible. Not to mention that he didn't think about what he was going to change to release something out of thin air. Even if he had thought about what to change, in front of so many transcendents and inhumans from all over the world, Bucky was afraid that he wouldn't be able to get out alive. All the transcendents in the world were obediently being unarmed, ordinary people here. Why did he have to stand out like this? Bucky didn't even tell Lucifer and Skahar, who already knew this secret, about the fact that the mysterious pad still retained a small part of its function in the Forbidden City. He kept it as a secret that only he knew. God loves the world. In the end, the first person of the new God Church, the Pope, raised his hands and said slowly, "And I love you." Perfect. The speech this time. Looking at the shocked faces of the crowd, Bucky smiled, shook the dense, dirty braids on top of his head, and walked down the stage casually. No matter what, the new God Church and the first person of the church, the Pope, had indeed left an unforgettable impression on all the people in the world. Well, I'm very grateful to the Pope of the new God Church for his speech. It's very insightful, haha. Kelowna's spokesperson went on stage again. Next, I'll pick the next representative to give the speech. Outside the venue, in a building a few kilometers away from the main venue, the temporary command center of the Kelowna Authority. The door of a sealed room in the building suddenly opened. 3 agents from the authority slowly walked in. Inside the room, a man with slightly messy hair and some stubble on his face was sitting on the sofa with his head down. When he saw the agents walk in, he slowly raised his head and said calmly, "The summit has started, right? Why are you looking for me?" Section Chief Yin Xiaoxi, your confinement is temporarily lifted. Consultant Hui Yun wants you to come to the venue now, the leading agent suddenly said. Section Chief Yin Xiaoxi, who looked exhausted, frowned. Master wants to see me? What's the matter? We don't know either, but please go now. Yin Xiaoxi nodded and slowly stood up. However, at this moment, she saw an investigator walk up to her with handcuffs on his hands. He was about to handcuff Yin Xiaoxi. What's the meaning of this? Yin Xiaoxi frowned and shouted. I'm sorry, Section Chief Yin. This is Consultant Hui Yun's order. We're just following orders. I hope you can understand. Impossible. Master wouldn't give such an order. At this moment, Yin Xiaoxi sneered and said, My master didn't ask you to come here. Who are you? The 3 agents looked at each other and said calmly, Section Chief Yin, sorry to offend you. With that, the 3 of them rushed up at the same time. Yin Xiaoxi snorted coldly. She was not afraid of the 3 of them at all. However, at this critical moment, the last agent hid behind his partner and secretly took out a black pistol. It was fired. The pistol shot out a drill with wires wrapped around it, which directly pierced into Yin Xiaoxi's thigh. Then, a strong electric current began to spread all over Yin Xiaoxi's body. Yin Xiaoxi twitched crazily for a few times and then fell to the ground, motionless. This kind of weapon used to catch wanted criminals of the administration, you didn't expect to use it on yourself one day, did you? Section Chief Yin. The agent kicked Yin Xiaoxi over. Take her away. Hurry up. Mr. Huang Chuan, how long will it take? The main venue shouldn't be so far away, right? In the corridor, Riaz asked with a frown. Lyoga was beside him. In addition to Huang Chuan, who was leading the way, there were 5 agents of the administration following behind them. We'll be there soon, Prince Riaz. At this moment, Huang Chuan faintly smiled. He turned around and asked, Is Prince Riaz's speech ready? Riaz nodded and said, Almost, although I'm a bit nervous. Lyoga elbowed Riaz's ribs. Huang Chuan smiled and said, Prince Riaz and this lady have such a good relationship. They're a match made in heaven. With the collar on their necks, They could translate these words in real time. Hearing that, Riaz just smiled awkwardly while Lyoga snorted. Okay, we're actually here, Huang Chuan suddenly said. We're here. Riaz was stunned that didn't walk to the end of the corridor. At this time, Huang Chuan directly opened a door in the corridor, made an inviting gesture, and said, "This is the destination of the two of you. Go in." "What's the matter? Shouldn't we be at the venue?" Riaz couldn't help but frown. Riaz. Unexpectedly, Lyoga suddenly called out his name, using the language of Undersea City. Riaz was stunned subconsciously. He saw that behind Lyoga, an agent of the administration had already approached and took out a weapon, pointing it at the back of Lyoga's head. "What are you doing?" Riaz was shocked and furious. Huang Chuan smiled indifferently and said, "Please come in." Riaz gritted his teeth and quietly moved his shoes, but he suddenly saw Lyoga's gaze, a gaze telling him not to act rashly. Under Huang Chuan's gaze, they quickly walked into the room. "My name is Shuinmius, the priest of the mysterious forest, an ancient and natural law-abiding." The voice came from the screen hanging on the wall of the room, but Riaz and Lyoga didn't have time to pay attention to it, because a cold-looking young man was sitting in front of the screen. One of the young man's hands was silver. It seemed to be a silver metal prosthetic hand. Riaz, who was a technician, could tell at a glance. "Please sit down." The cold-looking young man with the broken hand said indifferently, "Let me introduce myself. I'm Gongsun Jishui." Lyoga and Riaz looked at each other. Riaz thought for a while and said, "Mister, we don't seem to know you." The cold-looking young man, Gongsun Jishui, said indifferently, "Prince Riaz and I have indeed never met, but if we're talking about history, my people have been dealing with Undersea City, the sea monster tribe, for countless years." Riaz still had a blank expression. Lyoga frowned as if she thought of something and said coldly, "You're from the tribe that has been slaughtering the sea monster tribe?" "Slaughtering?" Gongsun Jishui said indifferently. "But my understanding is resistance. Xianyuan Palace has been resisting the invasion of the sea monsters for countless years." Lyoga sneered. "Why did you call us here?" Riaz saw Lyoga's expression and knew that something was wrong with this guy called Gongsun Jishui, so he asked in a deep voice, "You're also from Kelowna Authority?" "No." Gongsun Jishui chuckled and said, "I don't belong to Kelowna Authority. I invited the two of you here to discuss a deal with the two of you." "A deal?" Gongsun Jishui nodded and then said seriously, "Prince Riaz, have you ever thought about truly bathing in sunlight in your undersea city?" "What did you say?" Riaz was stunned and looked at this cold-looking guy in surprise. Gongsun Jishui said indifferently, "Please sit." "Riaz, listen to what this guy wants to say first. If it's beneficial to us, maybe we can talk." At this moment, Lyoga's voice suddenly sounded in Riaz's mind. This was not extraordinary power, but the function of the collar on his neck. It was the power of technology. Riaz was silent for a moment. In the end, he chose to listen to Lyoga's suggestion and slowly sat down. Outside the city, in a small building in a village, Mr. Song sat in front of the TV screen and listened carefully to the unique report. At this moment, there was some movement on the sofa behind Mr. Song. It was very light, as if there was nothing. But Mr. Song suddenly raised his hand. His body didn't move, but his raised hand blocked a fist that seemed to have the force of 1,000 caddies. "You're awake?" Mr. Song said indifferently. "I thought that with the help of the mind cleansing spell, you would wake up later." "Do you feel better, Mr. Song?" The one who punched. Farrell. It was still the same problem. Farrell couldn't communicate with the people of Kelowna through language. He slowly withdrew his fist, locked his eyes on Mr. Song, and slowly walked to the front of Mr. Song. Farrell stared at Mr. Song's eyes without blinking. In the end, he imitated Mr. Song's posture and sat on the ground. They looked at each other silently and didn't speak. Mr. Song only knew that this guy was a crazy guy and an extremely terrifying guy. If he was an opponent, he would be the most terrifying enemy. He smiled slowly. "My surname is Song. You can call me Mr. Song. How should I address you?" Farrell frowned and then took out a mobile phone from his chest. After a while, He said something to the phone and then pointed the screen at Mr. Song. It was written like this: "You're a dead man. Hashtag, 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 hashtag PS. 4/4. Chapter 1957. Mr. Song also knew how to translate. He raised the phone in front of him and tapped on the screen seriously. After a moment of silence, he said slowly, "Death is not scary. What is scary is that people don't know if their death has any meaning." In this way, Farrell could understand what Mr. Song meant. Miraculously, the two didn't need to talk across servers. Farrell suddenly said, "Before I die, there's one thing I need to do." Mr. Song smiled faintly and said, "I also plan to do one thing." Farrell said expressionlessly, "I need powerful help. My enemy is the most terrifying person in the world." Mr. Song said casually, "I also need a huge amount of help. Perhaps I will have to fight against the entire modern civilization. I will have countless enemies." Farrell sneered, "The dead have no future." Mr. Song said noncommittally, "I also don't see you having a future." Farrell was silent for a while. "You help me, I help you." Mr. Song smiled faintly. "You help me, I help you." As he said this, Mr. Song looked at the TV screen that Farrell was blocking. At this time, Farrell suddenly took out the talisman. There was a mark missing on it. Obviously, it was because of this mark that he woke up from the chaos. He was silent because he didn't expect that when he saw that terrifying face again, he didn't have the courage to stay. "My enemy is really scary," Farrell said slowly. Mr. Song glanced at him and said indifferently, "Any enemy, strong or weak, as long as they are alive, will have their own weakness." "Weakness?" Farrell muttered in a low voice and soon fell into contemplation. He didn't seem to have much interest in the live broadcast of the extraordinary conference and gradually became absent-minded. Charlotte, who was holding a black umbrella, and Gong Fanxing, who was exuding a charming aura, were together on the streets of Forbidden City. This should have been a beautiful scene that could attract people's attention. But now it wasn't. People's eyes were attracted by the big and small screens. Even the pedestrians on the street were looking at the screens of their phones and wearing headphones, afraid that they would miss something. This was the current situation on the streets. But it could be believed that this was the case for the entire world. People silently accepted these things that had existed since ancient times, and their understanding of power was refreshed again and again. As for the world on the internet, the world on the internet had long become as lively as the market at 7 or 8 in the morning. Their spirit lives inside, and what lives outside is an empty shell. Charlotte suddenly said, "Thousands of years have passed, and the world has not been unified, but ideas have found a big melting pot." Gong Fanxing glanced at Charlotte expressionlessly. According to Wolfgang, this witch's divination was reversed 9 out of 10 times, and the remaining one was basically accurate, but nothing good would come out of it. He remembered that she had traveled with Wolfgang all the way to the east. It seemed that they were looking for someone. "To be honest, you can hate me," Gong Fanxing suddenly said. "If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have been implanted by His Holiness." Charlotte said indifferently, "My soul belongs to the person I love. Except for him, no one can take my soul away from me. I don't resist, not because I can't resist, but because this is the guidance of fate." "Who is your lover?" Gong Fanxing was suddenly very curious. What kind of person could resist this crazy witch? Although Wolfgang had been working hard to have a beautiful relationship with Charlotte, it was just words, and he had never done anything substantial. "It is the morning star in the sky. It is the light in hell. It is the most beautiful creature created by the Creator," Charlotte said with a look of fascination. "Its smile can make all the women in the world obsessed, and its figure can make all the men in the world fall for it." Gong Fanxing couldn't help but stare blankly. "Doesn't this mean that this is a freaking two-way socket?" She shook her head. Communicating with the witch was a very tiring thing. Compared to this, it was more important to investigate the situation in the Forbidden City for Mr. Song. Gong Fanxing, who had already been in the city for some time, knew that in this place, her incomparably profound true power had indeed become soft, like a drunkard who could not be woken up no matter how hard she tried. she was only left with the lowest level of physical strength. Although this was the case, the soul imprint on her self-esteem didn't disappear because of this. The soul imprint just became less active, and once she left the Forbidden City, the soul imprint would return to normal. She couldn't possibly stay in this city forever, right? She might starve to death. Suddenly, two brawny men hurriedly ran past Gong Fanqing and Charlotte. When they ran past, one of the brawny men even said fiercely, "You must catch that stinky girl. She's scratch, boss. She's dead meat." Although the whole world was paying attention to the Transcendent Conference, there would always be special and exceptions. They might feel that everything was still very far away from them, and even tomorrow was too far away, so they decided to live through today first. One was a demoness from hell, and the other was a demoness from the ancient times of the Divine Land. Neither of them was a good person. He immediately knew that the stinky girl mentioned by the two strong men in a hurry would not have an easy time in the future. But what did it matter? Damn it, I clearly saw her running over here. How did she suddenly disappear? Let's go over there and take a look. The two brawny men were searching around the streets, and finally, they rushed into a small alley. One of them suddenly said loudly, "Looking for a beating, is Stinky Girl." At the end of the alley, a little girl with a face as delicate as a porcelain doll was currently sitting on the wall in the depths of the alley. She lightly kicked her legs, and her hands pressed against the wall to stabilize herself. She smiled as she looked at the two brawny men who were sweating profusely because they were looking for her. The little girl was about 11 or 12 years old. "You can't escape. Stinky Girl, I didn't say that I wanted to escape." The little girl chuckled and said, "I'm actually waiting for you here. You're dead. How dare you scratch our boss? Come down." At this moment, the little girl's lightly kicking shoes suddenly fell off. Thus, the little jade foot that was tightly wrapped in pure white stockings was presented in front of the two people. Through the light, they could even clearly see Luan Guo's distinct toes within the white. "Your boss is too rough. I don't like it. I like gentle humans." The little girl smiled innocently and said, "Also, if you shut up that skinny monkey of yours, I still prefer strong men." "Humph." The brawny man sneered and said, "Do you think we will still believe your nonsense? Stinky Girl, from the moment you appeared, nothing you said was true. Don't talk so much to her." The other brawny man sneered and said, "Just take her back. There are still many rich people who like to play with this kind of little girl." With that, the brawny man rushed forward and stretched out his hand to grab the little girl's leg. Unexpectedly, the little girl suddenly took out a Coke can and poured it on the brawny man. The brownish-yellow liquid instantly drenched the brawny man's arm and half of his body. "Damn it, Stinky Girl." The brawny man was furious, but he felt something was wrong. His nose twitched and he was shocked. "This is gasoline." At this moment, the little girl on the wall suddenly jumped down. Her movement was not agile, but not clumsy either. It was just right. After landing, the angry brawny man instantly grabbed the little girl's collar and lifted her up. "Stinky Girl, you're courting death. Be careful." The little girl squinted her eyes and smiled. A kerosene lighter was quietly placed at the spot between the man's thumb and index finger. "If you move slightly, it will... bang! It will be on fire." The little girl gently held the brawny man's fist. "You, Stinky Girl, it will be unstable when you're excited." The little girl laughed cheerfully at this time. At this time, the burly man subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva, but he did not dare to move. He slowly raised his other hand, wanting to take away the lighter that was placed between his thumb and index finger. However, this slight movement directly made the lighter unstable. The raised arm suddenly stopped and did not dare move. "Why? Why aren't you coming to help? What are you waiting for?" The brawny man quickly shouted at the other companions. "Such a small thing, and you're scared." At this time, the companion shook his head and directly walked forward. He easily reached out to take away the lighter on the brawny man's palm and extinguished it. He waved his hand and said, "What can happen? Don't be scared by this stinky girl." "Where is that stinky girl?" The little girl who was grabbed by the collar by the brawny man was gone. Here, two big brothers. I have a gift for you. The little girl's voice came from behind the two at this time. It was the sound of another lighter. When they hurriedly turned around, they saw that the lit lighter was flying towards them in a parabola trajectory. Panic! Fire! There were also screams. In the depths of the alley, thick smoke suddenly appeared, and not long after, the fire engine hurriedly rushed over. The incident in the alley attracted a lot of people to watch. Although it was important to pay attention to the live broadcast of the Supernatural Conference, the one to report on stage right now was an extremely rural black uncle adept. He was much more professional than the black uncle adept who danced around in a small ethnic tourist area at the border of Cathay. It was said that one person was directly burned to death in the alley, and another was seriously injured. In the crowd, a woman wearing jeans, a cap, a dark purple sleeveless short shirt, and a ponytail frowned when she saw this. Her eyes seemed to be looking for something. Soon, the woman's eyes stopped on a little girl in a car parked by the side of the road. The woman in purple walked directly to the little girl in white stockings, lowered her head, and said indifferently, "Is it because of you again? Lucifer, don't be like this." The little girl raised her head at this time, narrowed her eyes, and smiled. "You don't know how hard it was for me to endure outside. Gabriel's shackles of order made me unable to even lie. So, this is the reason why you came out every day to harm those little hoodlums these days?" The woman in purple said expressionlessly. "Apart from harming, I can't win against adults, right, little girl?" Lucifer shrugged at this time. "Unlike you, Queen of the Shadow Country, even if your power is banned, you still have extraordinary martial arts. Besides, these are just scumbags who kidnap little girls for people with special hobbies to play with. What? Our Queen of the Shadow Country also has a time when she shows mercy to scumbags. Isn't this really the kind of justice that moves people? Whoever dies has nothing to do with me." The woman in purple, Skaha, said expressionlessly, "Just as your summoned servant, according to the ancient contract, I need to protect your safety. I hope there won't be a situation like you, who often comes out to play without permission, in the future." Lucifer waved his hand and smiled. "I've had enough. After a few days of madness, I finally vented my long-suppressed dissatisfaction a little bit." Skaha said indifferently, "You can lie now, but I'll believe you this time. Now you should go back, sit in front of the TV, and watch your puppet put on a show in front of the world's transcendent giants." "Bucky?" Lucifer smiled faintly. "This guy's always been lucky. Don't worry, but you're right. I'm also curious to see how the churches in this world will react when they see the emergence of such a new religion. Unfortunately, it's not the current pope who came this time." She looked like an old woman who was passing judgment on the world. Suddenly, Ska grabbed the back of her collar with one hand and lifted her up. "I'm the king of hell." Lucifer frowned. Ska didn't seem to hear it. She just carried her and walked like this. "I was once the morning star in the sky, the supreme commander of heaven, the son of dawn." Lucifer tried to get the other party to respect him. Skaha still ignored him. Her pace even sped up unconsciously. "I'm the master who summoned you from the ancient contract. Can't you give me some face? No, let's go." Finally, the Queen of the Shadow Country from the ancient contract gave an absolute and heartless response.